Chapter 26. The magical power of the blood-transforming demon sword, which is a combination of magical weapons, is born for killing. It is too sinister and harms the peace of the world. Originally, in Ren's plan, there was no idea of refining the blood demon sword. But Dickenface and the Irish gang were so enthusiastic and prepared all the materials and preludes. It would be rude if someone still refuses. At the same time, when more than 70% of the blood evil power was diverted away from the blood space above the blood altar, the time for Dickenface to become a blood god would naturally be greatly extended. After more than 2 hours, the blood-transforming magic knife in front of Ren's eyes. Nourished by the massive blood evil power, the runes within it grew, giving birth to 12 restrictions. A middle-grade acquired spiritual treasure, or it can be said to be a magical power at the level Godfather level. After reaching this point, every growth of the blood demon sword requires more blood evil power than the previous total. But at this time, the being behind the bloody channel seemed to have noticed something was wrong. A touch of unparalleled will soon descend from the bloody channel. Level Godfather, and even the stronger dimension Mephisto. At the moment when his tyrannical will changed, Ren activated the pure yang golden bell, emitting a chime that sealed time and space, and forcibly shattered the bloody channel. Roar! Vaguely, in the shattered bloody passage, the roar of Mephisto from another dimension could be heard. Unfortunately, blocked by the power of the pure yang golden bell and separated by many dimensions, Mephisto in that dimension was just powerless and furious. The pure yang golden bell returned to the sea of consciousness, and the blood-transforming demonic sword turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the palm of the hand. Ren sensed the tyranny of the blood-transforming demon sword, and a very satisfied smile soon appeared on his face. Good people should have a peaceful life. Camartage's ancient one magician may be waiting for the other party to come. This kind of high-quality blood cow cannot be locked up in a dark room by the other party. Hey, I'm so damn kind. Ren sighed and finally looked at Dickenface, who was slowly falling in the bloody space. This is also a good man, a boy who gives money. Dickenface. After more than 70% of the blood god energy was taken away by Ren, Dickenface's blood god plan can be said to be successful but not successful at the same time. Calculated based on the Mephisto investment amount in the blood dimension. The energy projected and descended by the other party was enough to catalyze Dickenface into level Godfather. Maybe it's not durable and can only break out once or twice. But for Mephisto, the dimension behind it, it is enough. Dickenface only needs to hold the ancient one magician inside the earth for a while. In that dimension, Mephisto can break the magic barrier on the earth and wreak havoc on the earth. Even, directly incorporate the earth into its own dimension. Most of the power invested by dimensional Mephisto was taken away by Ren and used to sacrifice and refine the blood demon sword. So Dickenface seems very embarrassed now. It's you. Damn thief, thief. Give me your power and die. With a roar of rage, Dickenface's entire body surged to more than 2 meters high, and a pair of batwings with ferocious bone spurs stretched out from behind him. The ferocious batwing flapped, whipping up gusts of wind and shattering the stone altar. Although Dickenface at the moment is not as good as Thanos, Hela, Captain Marvel and the like, he is already comparable to Thor in the Hammer God stage. In the violent roar, Dickenface shot out like a blood shadow and appeared 3 feet in front of Ren in the blink of an eye. The green and black claws were like daggers, with the power to pierce through steel, like cannonballs, coming directly to take out Ren's heart. However, faced with Dickenface's violent attack, Ren's expression didn't change at all, and he didn't even bother to move a finger. Buzz! The sharp claws like steel daggers were blocked by a layer of white light. At the same time, a chain of white bone beads on Ren's wrist fell off, and the 3 of them merged into one. In the billowing black mist, 12 white bone demons were born. These bone demons are upgraded versions of the withered bone demons. Black smoke enveloped the lower body, and only the upper body took the shape of a skeleton, wearing bone armor and holding a sword. 12-headed bone demons, each one comparable to today's Dickenface. If the 12 Yuan Chen formation is formed, a real white bone god and demon will be born. Fake, what the hell is this? As soon as the 12-headed white bone demon appeared, Dickenfeather suddenly felt like he was facing a formidable enemy. Crash! When Dickenface was roaring and roaring, a bone demon holding a bone chain had already taken the lead, transforming into chains all over the sky, and wrapping around Dickenface. The remaining 11 white bone demons also took action at the same time. Boom! Bang bang! Bang 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 bang! The unbearable scene of the beating soon appeared on the second underground floor of the cuckold nightclub. That is, vampires have extremely strong resilience and can be called regenerative healing factor. If it had been any other extraordinary creature, even Thor, who would have been crippled by these 12-headed white bone demons, he would have been maimed on the spot. After more than 10 minutes of violent scenes. Even though Dickenface was already a marquee-level vampire, most of his blood essence and blood had been consumed. His whole body was like a puddle of mud and he could not recover for a long time. Tisk, 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 that's so cruel. Ren glanced at the dying Dickenface, and the lunar jade ring flew out from his fingers. In an instant, the 5 yin ghosts condensed in the Yuhuan space flew out, wrapped and sealed Dickenface, and brought it into the Daxia of space. Immediately afterwards, the 5 yin ghosts turned into black wind and swallowed up all the corpses in the nightclub. The space inside the Taiyin Yuhuan rumbled and increased by more than 100 cubic meters again. Until then, Ren just took back the Taiyin Yuhuan and walked out of the nightclub. Back to the car. Frank was concerned. Boss, do you want to call the scavenger to clean up? Ren shook his head and said, no, it's already been emptied. Send me back to the Presbyterian hospital, and ask my subordinates to take over the Irish gang's assets and territory tonight. I almost forgot, there are also those vampire assets, they are all good people. With these 2 amounts of income, we can almost start the preliminary acquisition of Osborn Group and start the next step of the plan. Chapter 27. The overnight collapse of the Irish gang and the disappearance of most of the vampires shocked the entire underground world. Whether it's the Irish gang or those vampires, their strength is quite impressive. Coupled with the demise of the Center family some time ago, the Sullivan family, which had been silent for more than 10 years, suddenly became popular in the entire underground world of disputes. The Sullivan family was originally one of the 13 seats in the underground world. Now that it has risen strongly, no one dares to touch the Sullivan family's brow in a short period of time. So when Ren's men took over the assets of the Irish gang and the contracted vampires, it went extremely smoothly. On the contrary, Ren returned to the dojo below the Presbyterian hospital and was very quiet. First, Professor Connors developed the lizard serum at the Presbyterian church and needed Ren's help. Secondly, Ren is also required to deal with Dickenface, a marquee-level vampire. A vampire at the level of a marquee can only be found but not sought. For Ren, a vampire of this level would have minimal effect if used to feed the blood demon knife. But if it is used as an experiment or a blood pack, it is very good. Start with this vampire. Ren is already preparing to build a vampire breeding base in the dojo. Presbyterian Hospital is one of the top 5 hospitals in America and even the world. It has a natural blood supply advantage. As long as it is willing to spend money, it can afford to raise thousands of vampires. And these vampires, no matter what, are extraordinary creatures at the level of immortality. If used for research and experiments, its genes, speed, recovery, longevity, 5 senses, etc. are all valuable. In terms of cultivation, its blood can nourish knives, its skin can make talismans, its claws can refine weapons, its bones can refine bone demons, its flesh can increase the space of the lunar jade ring, and its soul can nourish the mortal heart furnace. Even the evil energy of these vampires can be used to temper the foundation of the dojo. People can tell the difference between a full meal and a full meal. As long as a vampire of the marquee level is raised well, it will not be a problem to spawn a large number of vampires of the Earl and Viscount level. So for more than 2 months. In addition to keeping company with his little girlfriend Gwen, Ren continues to build a vampire breeding base underneath the Presbyterian Hospital. There are 2 unique talents in Frank and John Wick. In the past 2 months, the 2 of them also led people to capture hundreds of scattered vampires from Niu. Coupled with the influx and consumption of large amounts of funds. For 64 days, in the underground dojo of the Presbyterian Church, the original Bagua Mountain has been completely carved into the shape of an octagonal pagoda by Ren. After the 5 yin ghosts devoured a large amount of flesh and blood, they opened up 9 layers of space in this pagoda. The 9 diagrams and 9 palaces, the pagoda depicts the world. This entire underground hill was almost completely transformed into the embryo of a spiritual treasure in a world-painted pagoda. One of the floors is dedicated to breeding vampires. The aura of the rolling stars, combined with the corpses sent by the corpse collector, and the blood sent by the Presbyterian Hospital, can greatly supplement the origin of those vampires. Use Dickenface to grow the vampire group, and use the vampire group to mass-produce many cultivation resources. Self-sufficient and regenerative. An absolutely green and environmentally friendly industry without a trace of pollution. The only thing that's a little bit disappointing is that after the Bagua mountain was turned into a world-painted pagoda, the red dust heart refining furnace was added. The star aura here is already a bit stretched to store two magic weapons at the same time. I don't know if the assets of the Irish gang and the contract vampires have been sorted out. My next plan is impossible without enough money to support it. A vampire breeding base has just been built. Just as Ren was thinking about the next step, John Wick had already arrived at the dojo. Your Majesty, the assets related to the Irish gang and vampires have been integrated. Do you want to check it out? Has it been integrated so quickly? Walking out of the vampire breeding base, Ren came with a smile on his face. As expected, if you say CAO will come. After learning that a professional auditing company and lawyers were waiting at the Presbyterian Hospital, Ren did not stay too long in the dojo and quickly brought John Wick to his office. As soon as he walked in, the first thing that caught Ren's eyes was a red-haired woman with an extremely hot figure. A sexy figure and a beauty-level appearance. The slightly familiar look made Ren instinctively think of a name. Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. The first time he saw Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, Ren's heart moved slightly. S.H.I.E.L.D, this snake's nest, has begun to notice itself. He actually sent the ace agent Widow sister directly, and he paid enough attention to himself. I just don't know which version this widowed sister is from. The god's telekinesis scan, a rough outline of information is presented. With a bone age of 21, the arrow wounds on his body have not healed completely, and miraculously, Yuan Yin still exists. Did this widow sister just join SHIELD? It is only the beginning of the 21st century, and there are still a few years before the big Marvel event debuts. It is not impossible that the Black Widow of the movie universe was born in 1984. Gee, this is a decathlon agent. Are you so willing to invest in S.H.I.E.L.D these days? Even if he knew it was a barbed fish bait, he would still eat it. After Ren saw Natasha Romanoff, he was just stunned for a moment, then nodded slightly and strode into the room. Until then, Natasha Romanoff just stepped forward slightly and said, "Mr. Sullivan, I am Natasha Romanoff Sullivan. I graduated from the New York University School of Business Administration. Presbyterian Hospital hired me to manage some of your assets. I am handling the asset summary in the past month. This is a document. Please take a look." After taking the document from Natasha Romanoff, Ren glanced at the other person again. When their eyes met, a blush appeared on Natasha Romanoff's already extremely charming and delicate face. At this time, Natasha Romanoff, like an extremely innocent little girl, curled up her hair awkwardly. Sri Lanka Country 1. Wrong. Well, I almost messed up the channel. It's very sexy, hot enough, and completely charming. When it comes to seducing people, this Black Widow is truly a professional. In terms of acting skills, I gave the opponent 82 points, and the remaining 18 points were given in the form of 666. The performance is pure enough, the body and appearance are sexy enough, and there is also a bit of fledgling youthfulness. If there weren't other people in the office, Ren would have said directly, "Miss Natasha Romanoff, you don't want to lose your job. Forget it, let's talk about it next time when we have a chance, it's more important." Chapter 28. The liquidation of assets of the mafia forces is very complicated. The Irish gang is relatively easy to clean up. Its main assets are about 280 million in cash and black money, as well as some nightclubs and casinos used to sell goods. As for contracting vampires, the assets are more complicated. These immortal species, because of their extremely long lifespan, have a natural advantage in accumulating property. Cash, deposits, real estate, antiques, stocks, shares of major companies, etc. Even though the Sullivan family has an extremely powerful background, it took a lot of effort to transfer all these things to Ren's name. Just various auditing, accounting and legal fees alone cost nearly $20 million. However, the benefits brought by such a huge cost and time are also extremely huge. Among the documents submitted by Natasha Romanoff, the total cash brought by this wave alone has reached $1.64 billion, and there are also deposits in major banks around the world as high as $330 million. Definitely, more than 60% of this is black money. In addition, there are various real estate, antiques, stocks and shares of major companies, which are of higher value. Overall, the Irish gang and the twisted vampires were taken out. The overall income it can bring to Ren has reached nearly 5 billion. The Irish gang contributed 10%, and the vampires contributed 90%. A sudden wealth, reaching the top. It's a pity. It would be nice if there were more vampires to date. Ren put down the document in his hand casually, feeling a little emotional in his heart, and began to think about whether to let Frank and John Wick lead the team to sweep away a wave of vampires in other parts of America. His fingertips tapped lightly on the table. I feel like my plan is not impossible. However, in the short term, we still cannot be too radical. In the world of darkness, vampires are considered a large force, and they have a seat even in the global dark parliament. Each of the 13 vampire clans has a duke-level existence. Although those vampire dukes are generally not as powerful as the real-level godfather, they are not bad in terms of lifespan, essence, etc. With the blood-transforming magic knife around, I am not afraid of any vampires. But if he really wants to kill America's vampire too hard, the forces under his command may not be able to withstand it for the time being. Be careful and wait until your power grows before you go to the vampire dungeon. Anyway, part of the 5 billion assets will be liquidated, which is enough for the time being. After making up my mind, Ren quickly suppressed his thoughts and discussed the asset issues in the documents with the representatives of the auditors, accountants, lawyers, and other parties in the office. After more than 2 hours, most people in the office just left. And wait until these people leave. Ren just turned his attention to Frank and John Wick. Nowadays, the combat force under Ren has been divided into 2 parts and has been greatly strengthened. Among them, Frank leads more than 300 retired military members and is responsible for security, defense and critical operations. John Wick recruited about 200 killers to collect intelligence and deliver messages. Although the division of responsibilities between the two is not clear, their action styles are very different, and they vaguely look like internal mountain factions. People don't really care about this. It's nothing more than a gang, not a real military or government department. The people below can do whatever they want, as long as they are loyal, that is enough. Frank, after wiping out the Irish gang, is there any change at Kingpin's side? Boss, not yet. Kingpin has been surrounding a company called Oakmax recently. It is said that it is working on a particle accelerator. He pays very little attention to the battle on the road. Oakmax Corporation? Particle accelerator? Are you sure? I'm sure the news came from that boy Irving. The rumor is that Kingpin invited some great scientists to explore parallel worlds and so on. It's so funny. Frank played with the ballistic knife and complained sarcastically. Frank didn't take the gossip seriously. But after Ren heard it, his heart beat violently. If I remember correctly, there seems to be such a thing in Spider-Man, parallel world. Kingpin had someone use a particle accelerator to open the door to a parallel world, hoping to take back his dead wife and son from the parallel world. In the plot, the particle accelerator operating device seems to be in danger of destroying the city. Mud, my balls hurt. This rubbish place, Niu, is simply not a place for human beings. However, there is no need to pay attention to this matter for the time being. The plot of Spider-Man, Parallel World should take place in 2018, which is still early. As for the arrogant Jin Bin, he probably just started to have the idea of building a particle accelerator. After more than 10 years of investment, it is estimated that the other party will suffer a huge loss. After a few words of inner rant, Ren asked Frank to step back and turn to look at John Wick. John, is there any problem with the Russian Bear Gang? Your Majesty, there is no need to worry about the Russian Bear Gang. I personally killed Vigo Trasov of the Russian Bear Gang, and poached the Russian Bear Gang's killers through Old Winston at the Continental Hotel. The other party will not have any in the near future. Any problem? In the near future? Does that mean there will be problems in the future? Yes, Your Majesty, there are many dark creatures behind the Russian Bear Gang, including many necromancers, werewolves, snow monsters, and trolls, etc. They are intricate and complex, and they will not give up the interests of the Americas. Then wait until they arrive. Then you continue to recruit and train people, and be ready to fight at any time. Follow your orders, Your Majesty. Chapter 29. After Frank and John Wick finished their reports, they also left the office and went to their respective sites. As for Ren, he was tapping the fun summary document on the desktop, lost in thought. The annexation of the Irish gang and the contract with the vampires went much smoother than Ren imagined. Kingpin is obsessed with particle accelerators and attempts to bring back his wife and children from a parallel world. After the Russian Bear Gang was deprived of its elite talents, no matter how powerful the forces behind it were, they would not be able to travel to America in a short time. This is the best window period to expand your power. At this stage, I have both people and money. As long as I can get the down payment and the interest complex behind it, I can easily sweep the entire Hell's Kitchen. Using the comprehensive construction of Hell's Kitchen as a gimmick, they are not afraid that the city's politicians and capitalists will not contribute. Although Hell's Kitchen is shabby and chaotic, its location is really great. You know, the official borough name of Hell's Kitchen is Clint, also known as West Midtown. If development can be carried out here, I am afraid that every inch of land will be more expensive than diamonds. Once the development is completed, I am afraid it will not be able to attract interests of at least 100 billion US dollars. And it just so happened that my temporary dojo was no longer sufficient. Just take the entire Hell's Kitchen as a guide, rearrange the formation, radiate to the entire Niue and the East Coast, and create a real dojo. With the twisted center, the north and south sides of the East Coast are connected with the earth veins to form a dragon shape. At that time, you can control the situation thousands of miles away and turn it into the power of two dragons playing with a pearl. After slowly conquering the major areas of America, you can also add ground veins from all directions and upgrade it into formations such as 5 dragons holding the saint and 9 dragons guarding. I really want a feng shui formation that can attract the same bead from Kowloon. By then, Ren's dojo will be no worse than the real cave heaven paradise. It just so happens that there is Governor's Island on the sea 1 kilometer south of Manhattan, which can be used as the Dragon Ball in the Feng Shui formation. Governor's Island was under the jurisdiction of the Commonwealth of America until the 21st century. Not long ago, President America signed an agreement to return Governor's Island to the state capital. At that time, he can use part of the profits from Hell's Kitchen to exchange for Governor's Island from the state capital of Niue. For the sake of profit, he is not afraid that the governor of Niue will not treat him like a dog, and he can also cut off his financial backing in America's political arena. Planned to perfection. However, even if the 500 action team is very elite, the number of people is still too small after all. Needless to say, Kingpin has been able to become the overlord of the underworld for many years, and he has many forces under his command, so he has some strength. If you want to promote this plan, you need a force with sufficient deterrence. In more than 2 months, Professor Connors should have almost completed the research on the lizard serum. After all, he had already given the other party the decay formula. That's right, lizard serum is the deterrent force Ren prepared for his perfect plan. However, before going to Professor Connors's laboratory, there was still a minor trouble in his office. The calculation in my mind is over. Ren quickly came back from his thoughts and his eyes fell on Natasha Romanoff, who had been keeping quiet. And as a top agent in the decathlon. The first time she sensed Ren's gaze, Natasha Romanoff was on high alert, but on the surface, there was no change at all. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any instructions? Natasha Romanoff behaved respectfully, but inadvertently, she showed a hint of flattery, with big watery eyes, and a hint of very clear admiration. It's so awesome, even after the Oscar-winning actress came, she had to give her a thumbs up. What is acting? This is called acting. It was just a look, and the other person seemed to say everything and nothing. After Ren praised the other party's acting skills, he took off the bone bead chain and played with it. Then he looked at the other party with a half-smile and said, "Your name is actually Natasha Romanoff, right?" After Ren finished speaking, Natasha Romanoff's eyes flickered for a moment, but there was an innocent expression on her face. "Mr. Sullivan, what are you talking about, Romanoff? My last name is Sullivan. Don't move. Please keep your hands exposed." Just when Ren was about to stand up, with just a little movement, Natasha Romanoff, who was still acting, suddenly changed her face and took out a small pistol with her backhand. Natasha Romanoff's movements and reactions are quick, sharp, and full of fierceness. It can be said that this performance is not much worse than that of Frank and John Wick under Ren. And what's even more appreciable is that, after abandoning that charming attitude, what appeared on her body was another kind of beautiful temptation, like a female leopard with a bit of wildness. Still awesome, still a beauty. Okay, I will do as you say, don't get too excited. And Ms. Romanoff, I don't really like having guns pointed at me. People have some patience for beautiful things, especially women. It has nothing to do with lust. Ren swore that he was just practicing the yin-yang Hehuan Tao. Seeing Ren put his hands on his chest in cooperation, Natasha Romanoff's expression clearly relaxed slightly. But just when Natasha Romanoff was about to say something, throughout the office, a billowing black mist spread beneath the ground. Shit, what the hell is this? Natasha Romanoff has an amazing sense of intuition. The moment the black mist spread, she sensed the crisis and was ready to jump up and take control of Ren. But it is a pity that Natasha Romanoff is just a mortal no matter how good she is in the decathlon. Facing a foundation-building monk with countless skills and many magical powers and spiritual treasures, let alone Natasha Romanoff, even the entire S.H.I.E.L.D plus all the agents in the Red House would be of no avail. The moment the black mist appeared, Natasha Romanoff was already under control. The 12 Yuan Shen Bone God Demon, even if Ren's bone bead has just been successfully refined, it is still the power of the Yuan Shen mighty level. Put in this world, it is enough to rival the existence of level Godfather. With this supernatural treasure protecting his body, regardless of the mana consumption, even the Ancient One and Odin would be unable to do anything to Ren. The withered bone demon can transform into reality and reality. In the black mist state, the strength may be slightly lower than the bone state, but it is still comparable to beings such as Abomination. This kind of power is not something Natasha Romanoff can shake. Chapter 30. The skeleton demon in the black mist state is born with a demonic aura. Bound by this aura, Natasha Romanoff was like a beautiful sculpture, unable to even move her eyes. But at this time, Ren stood up with a smile on his face and came to the other party's side. He casually took off the firearm from the opponent's hand, and then touched his face. Entering with a trace of mana. Natasha Romanoff had just regained some of her mobility, and her instinct was to run away from Ren. But unfortunately, Natasha Romanoff's thoughts had just arisen, and before she could take action, a big hand had already wrapped around her waist like an iron hoop. Little widow, I have a piece of advice for you. It's best to put away your widow's bite when faced with a being many times more powerful than you. The gentle voice struck Natasha Romanoff's sea of consciousness and soul like thunder. Even if Ren didn't reveal any more tricks, just a somewhat teasing remark, it had already made Natasha Romanoff feel palpitations of extreme fear. Feeling the beauty in his arms put away her little movements, Ren came with a satisfied smile. Have you touched me enough? Do you want me to have one here? Don't dare to mess around with small tricks, but if you lose, you won't lose. No one has any capital. Natasha Romanoff felt the big hands on her hips and gave Ren a look of arrogance and contempt. So what if he is mysterious and extraordinary, he is not an LSP. Ridiculed by Natasha Romanoff. Ren was not embarrassed, but he let go of his palm with a pity, and said calmly, Little widow, don't be ignorant of good people's hearts. I'm just helping you diagnose your condition and touch your bones. Do you understand? Natasha Romanoff rolled her eyes and said she didn't want to talk to Ren. The agent has a wide range of knowledge. Do you know what the decathlon is? You are fooling me. I've never heard of people touching the bones in their buttocks. Ren didn't care about Natasha Romanoff's slightly sarcastic look and smiled, Do you want to be a real woman? Middle finger, an international gesture. Natasha Romanoff was so angry at Ren that she seemed to be breaking the rules. Ren. I mean, do you want to be a complete woman, the one who can give birth to babies? As soon as she finished speaking, Natasha Romanoff's expression suddenly changed. But even so, Natasha Romanoff still maintained a superficial calm. The Red House in the Russian Bear Country is quite famous. Ren poured 2 glasses of red wine to himself and said, especially Dreykov's Black Widow Ace, which caused quite a stir in the international community some time ago. By the way, do you think you really killed Dreykov, Rub? Listening to the hidden meaning in Ren's words, Natasha Romanoff couldn't hold back any longer and stood up suddenly. Dreykov is dead, I did it myself. Are you sure? Have you seen the body? What on earth do you mean? Who on earth are you? It's urgent. It's urgent. Shit, is this the way you usually talk to women? It's so low-key. Natasha Romanoff tried to use provocative rhetoric. Unfortunately, Ren just tasted the fruit aroma in the red wine calmly as an old dog. After one round of confrontation, Natasha Romanoff was completely defeated. The stalemate lasted for 2 minutes. Natasha Romanoff just looked frustrated and said, What do you want from me? If it's just for one shot, you can start now. As she spoke, Natasha Romanoff looked so angry that she was about to take off her clothes. A button. 2 buttons. 3 buttons. Looking at Ren, who looked admiring and motionless, Natasha Romanoff stopped immediately and said, "FK, you are such a damn BD." After trying the second round of confrontation and failing, Natasha Romanoff is totally screwed. Until then, Ren just spoke, "You smell of blood. You just joined S.H.I.E.L.D, right?" Natasha Romanoff raised her eyebrows and said, "Yes, I was chased in Pedibus and accidentally ran into Hawkeye from SHIELD. We don't know each other until we fight. 2 months ago, S.H.I.E.L.D allowed me to enter the Presbyterian Hospital to gain the extraordinary power of the Sullivan family." While speaking, Natasha Romanoff glanced at the black fog surrounding her. Ren smiled and raised his glass to signal the other party to continue. Natasha Romanoff calmly flipped her hair and said, "This mission is a test for me from SHIELD. It is also a letter of nomination. However, S.H.I.E.L.D did not expect that you would actually win the battle against the Irish gang and vampires. The original mission was extended and instead they were lurking next to you. Last week, in order to enter the core layer under your command, Hawkeye made a show and left an arrow wound on my body. You also saw the effect. I successfully became the assistant to the chairman of Presbyterian Hospital." Ren nodded and said, "How much do you know about S.H.I.E.L.D? Natasha Romanoff, "Not a lot, I just know that S.H.I.E.L.D is an extremely large global organization. My guide is Hawkeye Barton. I have met Nick Fury, Hill, Phil Coulson in S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha Romanoff seemed to be very honest in explaining her purpose and the information she knew. It's pretty much what Ren expected. At this time, Natasha Romanoff probably didn't have much sense of belonging to SHIELD otherwise. Even if the other party is trying to obtain information, they will not sell out Nick Fury, Barton and others, at least they will not tell their detailed appearance. For an agent, the exposure of his true identity and appearance is basically the destruction of his career. Wait until Natasha Romanoff finishes speaking one after another." Ren just laughed, and from a few meters away, he reached out and took the eavesdropping device hidden in Natasha Romanoff's hair and the communication device behind her ear into his palm. After smashing the two things casually, Ren cunningly took out a camera from his desk. "I almost forgot to tell you, Ms. Natasha Romanoff, that all external communications can be blocked here. There's a lot that the supernatural can do, you know. As for this video, even if it is your employment application, I will keep it safe for you," Ren said with a smile. Natasha Romanoff's heart trembled, and then she collapsed on the sofa. "It's over, the third round of confrontation, a complete defeat. I haven't been able to spread any of the dialogue and information here. There is a high probability that S.H.I.E.L.D will not be able to act in real time to kill this BD and save itself. And more importantly, the other party has grasped his own leverage. I have leaked a lot of secrets before. In the case of instant messaging, S.H.I.E.L.D can also make up for it by destroying this place. The statute of limitations has expired. Once this thing spreads, it will be impossible for him to gain the trust of SHIELD. In fact, he will even be hunted down by S.H.I.E.L.D and his former enemies." "BD, what a damn BD," Natasha Romanoff cursed in her heart, but could only show a forced smile on her face and said, "You win, asking for collection, asking for flowers, and asking for evaluation." Chapter 31. Presbyterian Hospital, in a secret genetic research institute. After Ren led Natasha Romanoff through the tight defenses, they soon came to an extremely simple laboratory. A woman with a special experience like Natasha Romanoff cannot be dealt with in just a few words. Natasha Romanoff is much more thoughtful than a little girl like Gwen. However, with the video handle, it would not hinder anything if Natasha Romanoff could see some of the special powers in Ren's hands in advance. Anyway, this lizard serum will soon appear in the plan to sweep Hell's Kitchen. Thinking of this, Ren found Professor Connors without any hesitation. "Professor Connors, how is the progress of the lizard serum research?" "Boss, I'm very sorry. I'm afraid the current lizard serum still cannot meet your requirements. After the experimental subject is injected, the more times it participates in battles, the more animalistic it becomes. Isn't it possible to add the decay formula and genetic debugging?" "In which aspect does the problem arise?" "It is the integration of gene chains. We have conducted more than 30 experiments and found that during the integration process, gene debugging cannot be 100% perfect. Professor Connors kept talking about many professional things. Ren frowned slightly. The world's great road leads to the same destination through different paths. Science and spiritual practice actually have a lot in common. For example, Professor Connors mentioned the problem of gene chain integration. In Ren's view, the gene integration of lizard serum is similar to the integration of animal souls in left field practice. It's just that mortals don't have magic power and it's hard to control and suppress the bestiality in lizard genes. And like Spider Gwen and Spider Peter, they are all special beings who are born with spider genes. In this case, there is no way to popularize lizard serum. One is to use extreme methods and use some means, such as phantom formations, raising goo, and killing, to quickly improve the zinxing of the experimental subjects. But even so, as the gene integration takes longer, there will be recurring risks. The other is to cancel the beast-killing nature through various methods such as exercises and elixirs. In the Luofu world, there are many elixirs such as King's Inju, King Inkwu, King's Inden, and Soul Awakening Dan, which can help people eliminate evil spirits, viciousness, animal nature, and other hidden dangers. But in this world, even the basic practice of King's Inju is very difficult for ordinary people. If it was just for people's own use, it wouldn't be a problem to train a group of subordinates. But the key point is that if it is purely for personal use, it will have little effect on people. Even if Ren worked hard to cultivate a group of minions who could integrate the lizard serum, what if they could still be stronger than the bone monsters and withered bone monsters in Ren's hands? What is needed is lizard serum that can be promoted, sold, and applied on a large scale. Only such lizard serum can become a bargaining chip in Ren's hands. This bargaining chip allows Ren to gain great benefits in the hands of the military, America as a whole, and even major forces around the world. This kind of benefit is not just money, but also connections, special treatment, preferential treatment of resources, etc. Watching Ren frown, Professor Connors was also a little embarrassed, but he quickly thought of something and said with some anxiety, "Boss, I have found some clues about gene integration. Among the blood clan gene samples provided by Boss, there is a defective gene that can greatly facilitate integration. I temporarily used this gene to make a supplementary medicine." Along with Professor Connors, he retrieved a large number of experimental logs. Ren quickly found useful information in it and discovered that Dekenface's gene, no, to be precise, it should be Daywalker's gene, which has a strong effect on promoting gene integration. It's just that whether it's Dekenface or Daywalker, the recessive gene chain is defective. Professor Connors is a top genius. From this defective genetic sample, Connors selected some gene fragments and made 2 supplementary medicines. One is an integrating agent and the other is a blocking agent. The lizard serum combined with the integrate potion can test the subject for 4 hours without being controlled by animal nature. During these 4 hours, as long as the blocking agent is used, the lizard serum in the body can be automatically removed and the experimental subject can return to its original state. This thing is similar to a stimulant, super powerful. Although it is not perfect yet, it is enough for a short period of time. 4 hours is enough to support an intense battle. At the very least, in local battlefields and urban street battles, this thing is simply invincible. In fact, if this thing is used for business, it is simply better than the perfect version of lizard serum. The perfect version of the lizard serum, no matter how expensive it is a one-time deal. As for the lizard serum that is combined with supplementary medicine, even if it is sold cheaper, it is still a trickle. What's more, how could such an extraordinary thing be so cheap? Okay, Professor Connors, your idea of replenishing the medicine is very good. Ah, boss, this thing is not perfect. It cannot permanently reborn a broken limb or improve self-healing. I need more samples of blood clan genes to completely improve it. Definitely, Professor Connors, I will help you collect more blood clan genetic samples. What does the boss mean? Haha, the lizard serum and integrate potion will continue to be perfected, but in the future they will only be used internally. This supplementary potion will be sold to the outside world, which will bring us extremely long-term benefits. As Ren finished speaking, there was silence in the laboratory for a moment. Connors. Natasha Romanoff. This BD deserves to be rich. Is this what a capitalist is? It's so dark. Ren didn't care about the two people's inner thoughts and said with great satisfaction, Professor Connors, conduct genetic testing for the team led by Frank and John as soon as possible. Recently I am going to launch an operation and conduct a product demonstration to the military. Well, don't stop researching on supplementary medicines. You can carry out shallow expansion, such as developing quick hemostasis medicines, quick recovery medicines, etc. Lizard serum and supplements are facing violent institutions such as the military, and the mass market cannot give up. Remember, you can't feed people all at once. The efficacy of the medicine can be diluted to reach high, medium, and low levels. After the development is completed, we will maintain a trial period in Presbyterian Hospital for a certain period of time to help Presbyterian Hospital expand in America and even around the world. Connors. Natasha Romanoff, asking for collection, asking for flowers, and asking for evaluation. Chapter 32. In the secret laboratory on the second underground floor of the Presbyterian Church. In an isolated room made entirely of military bulletproof glass, several laboratory assistants held operating instruments, surrounding a huge amount of transparent glass tank. In the tank, a disabled person with an oxygen input device was clearly visible. Comprehensive disinfection completed. The injection of high-concentration nutrients is completed. Gene debugging completed. Final testing completed. Start injecting. As Connors continued to order outside the experimental isolation room, several experimental assistants continued to take action. A 250 ml tube of emerald green lizard serum was quickly injected into the experimental subject through an infusion belt. Immediately afterwards, several experimental assistants quickly evacuated from the experimental isolation room in an orderly manner. The entire experimental isolation room was tightly sealed. And in such a short span of less than a minute, in the huge amounts of transparent glass tank, the expression of the disabled man who was originally very quiet soon turned ferocious. Subsequently, green veins bulged high on the disabled man's body. The disabled person seemed to be suffering from something extremely painful, constantly struggling in a large amount of nutrient solution. Pay attention to recording the time and every change in the experimental subject. The serum has started to take effect. Prepare the integrating potion and blocking potion. Remember, everyone, don't panic, we are very safe. Just as a security director kept warning everyone present, Professor Connors and others in the center of the laboratory had already let out a cry of surprise. Follow the gazes of Connors and others. But in the huge amounts of glass jar, the disabled person who was originally only about 170 centimeters in height began to swell. The severed limbs are growing rapidly, and even the height and shape are constantly increasing. As the experimental body continued to expand, the high concentration of nutrients in the glass tank dropped at an alarming rate and was completely absorbed. Quick! The other party is rapidly energy absorbing and injecting the integrate potion. After Professor Connors saw this scene, he became a little crazy. With the injection of the integrate potion, the experimental subject who was still struggling crazily finally showed a slightly relaxed look on his face. More than half an hour. Among the huge amounts of glass jar, a lizard man about 2.5 meters tall appeared in everyone's sight. Yes, it's the lizard man. In addition to the basic human form, there are also a large number of scales, claws and lizard tails. Take the lead in conducting emotional and intelligence tests. Then arrange for the other party to undergo tests on physical fitness, strength, speed, etc. as soon as possible. I need detailed data as soon as possible. Looking at the giant lizard man in the experimental isolation room, Ren's eyes became more and more amazed. I have to say that there is something magical about this scientific method. 4 hours is not a long time, but it is enough for the experimental subjects to complete a series of tests. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a complete data report appeared in Ren's hands. In addition, there is also a complete video of experiments and tests. This wave of experiments conducted by Professor Connors can be described as very successful. After being injected with lizard serum, the experimental subjects not only successfully grew new hands and feet, but their physical fitness, strength, speed, recovery, etc., all reached extremely astonishing levels. Its amazing endurance ability allows it to run at full speed while withstanding 20 tons of pressure. Its fastest running speed can even reach 140 km/h. Its recovery ability means that after being penetrated by a large caliber heavy-duty sniper rifle, it only takes 90 seconds to fully recover. This kind of existence can't compare to the Hulk, and it can't even compare to the HYDRA. But the advantage is that as long as you have enough money, you can quickly copy in large quantities. The only drawback is that after using the blocking agent, the scales, muscles, claws, tail, etc. on the experimental subject quickly dissolved, and the whole person returned to his original disabled appearance. In other words, This thing is a disposable item. Apart from fighting, it has no other function. Professor Connors felt very sad about this and spent half an hour in the office asking Ren to send a large number of blood clan gene samples as soon as possible. For lizard serum to achieve perfect efficacy, the special integrate effect in the blood clan gene is essential. For a top talent like Professor Connors, Ren naturally chooses to comfort him in various ways. Wait until Professor Connors leaves. Ren laughed out loud when he watched the lizard man's various violent tests in the video. Is it profitable to make this serum? Just when Ren was getting happier, Natasha Romanoff spoke curiously for the first time after being manipulated. Ren glanced at Natasha Romanoff, pointed at the lizard man in the video, and said, "Do you think the military, no, I should say the major forces around the world, would be interested in this kind of combat capability?" Natasha Romanoff said without hesitation, "Yes, definitely." Ren asked, "Then how much do you think they are willing to pay for such a genetic potion?" Natasha Romanoff frowned and said, "I don't know much about this, and I can't guarantee it." Ren laughed and said, "In America, it costs about $10 to train a qualified soldier from scratch, and it costs at least $700,000 to train a qualified Special Forces soldier. In addition, the upper limit for a complete set of equipment for a Special Forces soldier is $1 million. In other words, a special soldier who can go to the battlefield, even on average, requires $1.5 million. And with one dose of this genetic medicine, even an ordinary person can kill at least 100 Special Forces soldiers in 4 hours." Natasha Romanoff frowned as she listened to Ren's words, but did not refute. Ren continued, "Lizard serum has certain limitations, but its value cannot be doubted. In this case, the cost of completing a person's genetic adjustment is about $1.25 million US. I sold it for $6 million. Isn't that excessive? A lizard serum costs about $800 US. I can't sell it for $100,000 US, right? One integrate potion costs about $500 US. I can sell it for $100,000 US, right? There are also blocking drugs, which cost about $200 US. I can't sell them for $100,000 US, right? Since the genetic medicine needs to be purchased as a set, a discount of $250,000 is not too much, right? Look, a super lizard warrior, for only $6.25 million, can defeat 1 against 100, or even dominate the battlefield. Isn't it a good deal? I only earn $5 million for a super soldier." Chapter 33. A super lizard warrior more powerful than Captain the United States only costs $6.25 million. This is simply a cabbage price. No, it is no different from a charitable donation. How much did America spend on the super soldier project that she had been researching since World War II? It would have cost tens of billions over several decades. But apart from being the captain of the United States, are there any tangible results? No, not one. From such a comparison, we can see how cost-effective the lizard gene medicine is. Although the potion set is a one-time use, the genetic adjustment can be used for life. The subsequent purchase of potion sets only cost $250,000 US at a time. Thinking about the virtues of America's soldiers, the loss of light bullets, grenades, electronic equipment, etc. in a casual battle would exceed $250,000 US. This kind of super lizard warrior is much more powerful than an American soldier, 100 times more. On the way to Neo Nagashima, Natasha Romanoff looked at Ren's handsome face with his eyes closed, and his heart was extremely confused. With the other party taking advantage of her, Natasha Romanoff no longer dared to leak too much information to SHIELD. Even, because of that handle, Natasha Romanoff already feels alienated from SHIELD. Because Natasha Romanoff knows that as long as she has that handle, she will never truly become one of SHIELD. She has leaked too much confidential information of SHIELD. And if you leave S.H.I.E.L.D, you can only turn to this BD. At least, the existence of lizard gene medicine is enough for the other party to establish a huge group. The military, intelligence agencies, and even S.H.I.E.L.D of various countries will need large amounts of genetic agents in the future. The mere appearance of this thing is enough to make Ren a sought-after existence all over the world. When the time comes, it won't be a problem to protect yourself with the other party's power. Just this BD. The other party was obviously greedy for her body, but he also pretended to be indifferent and made it clear that he wanted to send her to his door. What a jerk! Just when Natasha Romanoff was struggling in her heart, Ren, who had closed his eyes to rest, suddenly opened his eyes and came. Their eyes met, and for a moment, a blush appeared on Natasha Romanoff's face. Are you impressed by how handsome I am? If you want to see it, just do it openly, no need to be sneaky, I don't mind. He's still ABD. So what if he's handsome? He just has a mouth. Natasha Romanoff complained in her heart, but when she spoke, she turned a corner and said, the lizard serum will be perfected one day, right? Broken Limb Reborn, I have to say, the amazing effectiveness of the lizard serum shocked Natasha Romanoff. Deep in Natasha Romanoff's heart, she longs to one day become a complete woman. Ren nodded and said, yes, the blood clan gene samples of the group are not perfect at the moment. There are only some mixed blood gene samples. In the blood clan, they belong to the bottom. And in the blood clan's base camp in Europe, there are 13 pure blood clans, as well as a large number of derivative blood clan. In fact, according to the group's intelligence, there has been a rumor that there is a perfect blood in Europe recently. When the group grows, it will soon expand the laboratory's genetic sample bank. It's only a matter of time before the perfect lizard serum appears. Ren didn't lie to Natasha Romanoff. In the temporary dojo below the Presbyterian Hospital, the S-Futu Tower has opened up 9 layers of space. Whether they are vampires or other extraordinary creatures, there will be many in the future. The future biological laboratory planned by Ren will also have an extremely large gene bank. These things will become the material for people's spiritual practice. After receiving Ren's answer, Natasha Romanoff finally made up her mind and looked at Ren with a pair of beautiful eyes, without any trace of color. I can be your subordinate, but I hope you won't force me if I don't want to. No problem, but besides beauty, what can you give me? I can be your internal agent in SHIELD, as well as other intelligence channels in my hands. Not enough. Red House, I can help you get the Red House. You said that Dreykov is not dead. As long as he is not dead, the Red House will not disappear. And I am the person who is most familiar with the Red House. The Red Room is the hell in Natasha Romanoff's heart, and it is also the place that Natasha Romanoff cares about most. In the past, all Natasha Romanoff could think about was to kill Dreykov so that the Red House would disappear and her former family members would be free. In the world of drama. Even though Natasha Romanoff later had a new home like S.H.I.E.L.D, she never thought about letting S.H.I.E.L.D take control of the Red House. And now, Natasha Romanoff throws out her last bargaining chip. Looking at Natasha Romanoff, who looked solemn and struggling in her heart, Ren snickered in his heart. For Ren, all interests, intelligence, power, money, etc. are bullshit. From beginning to end, all Ren wanted was Natasha Romanoff. Not for beauty, but for spiritual practice. After several close encounters with Natasha Romanoff, Ren realized that there was a kind of Yumuashe yin aura hidden in Natasha Romanoff. It is different from the pure yin energy of creation in Gwen. The chi of Yumuashe yin can be said to be the foundation of human yin and yang, which supplements and develops the branches of the 5 elements. Yin and yang are the main elements and contain the 5 elements. If the 5 elements can be supplemented in the Tao Foundation during the foundation building stage, it will greatly enhance people's potential, origin, mana, etc. It will also be of great help to Ren's future development in the earthly evil realm and Tiangang realm. Cultivation is the foundation. Returning great power to oneself is the purpose of man. Everything else is just a dispensable existence on the path of spiritual practice. Through Natasha Romanoff's eyes, Ren seemed to see the other person's heart and soul. When Natasha Romanoff became more and more anxious, Ren suddenly said, "You don't have to worry about SHIELD. After we capture the Red House, the entire Red House can be left to you to formulate rules and manage. Now, do you feel aggrieved to be my secretary for a while?" Hearing Ren's words, Natasha Romanoff's whole heart trembled slightly. Although the other party's words were still very irritating, Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but feel warm after all. Although she knew that this was just a sweet date thrown by the other party, Natasha Romanoff was still somewhat happy with it. Chapter 34. After initially accepting Natasha Romanoff, the atmosphere between the two changed subtly. Ren is still very annoying, and Natasha Romanoff seems to have regained some of her girlish energy. It's a bit awkward and a bit ambiguous. During the not-so-long journey, the relationship between Ren and Natasha Romanoff became obviously much closer. After the vehicle arrived at a manor on Long Island, When she got off the car, Natasha Romanoff was like a changeable witch, returning to her cool secretary look, which was also professional enough. Oh, look who is here, our boy Ren from the Sullivan family seems to have grown up. Bill Sr., this is Natasha Romanoff, my assistant secretary. I know, the secretary has something to do, and it's okay, hey, I understand. Shit, Natasha Romanoff, this is old Bill, Mayor Nuyo, an old friend of my father's. The owner of Long Island Manor is a tall, middle-aged man with a square head and a big face. Even when he is joking, his expression often gives people a serious feeling. The two parties exchanged pleasantries and soon entered the interior of the manor. In the manor's study, after the servant brought the black tea, old Bill took a sip of tea and then looked at Ren more seriously. Ren, the Sullivan family has been doing quite a lot recently. Why did you come here? For a plan to unify the entire black gang. Haha, Ren, although you are as humorous as before, now is not the time to joke. Halfway through the words, old Bill's eyes calmed down and his face became more serious. Because on Ren's face, old Bill saw a kind of confidence and determination. Put down the teacup in your hand. Old Bill adjusted his sitting posture and said, Ren, I don't know what gives you such confidence, but I want to tell you that gold is not as simple as you think. At the same time, neither the city government of Niue nor the state capital of Niue will allow such an existence. Ren looked calm and said, what if I give up part of the benefits of developing Hell's Kitchen? Old Bill suddenly stood up and said, what did you say? Ren smiled, leaned back more and more relaxed, and said, Old Bill, you heard me right, it is the benefit of developing Hell's Kitchen, the entire Hell's Kitchen, and the entire Clint district. After finishing speaking, Ren held the teacup and turned to gesture to Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff neatly took out a design drawing and unfolded it in front of Old Bill. A design of the entire Midtown West in Manhattan. High-end residential areas, commercial buildings, bustling neighborhoods, etc., are as dazzling as if they were carved with gold. Old Bill was in shock. Ren took the opportunity to speak, Old Bill, you don't have to worry about whether I can deal with those gangs. Believe me, it's not difficult at all for me to get the down payment. At that time, all gangs will no longer be as arrogant as they are now. The city's security, economy, culture, etc. will all increase significantly, and you will become the greatest contract mayor in history. Everyone will thank you and wealthy people will get enough of the development in West Midtown. Citizens can get more jobs and economic income, and gain an unprecedented sense of security. The city government, police station, tax bureau, etc. will be your back garden and become your staunch supporters. Old Bill, you will gain endless wealth, power, and fame. Think about it, you are only 40 years old. You still have a lot of time. You can even challenge for the position of federal president in the future. No one can stop you. After just a few words, Old Bill became enthusiastic and breathed a little heavily. Natasha Romanoff inadvertently glanced at Ren. Sure enough, he has a mouth. How is this different from the devil's bewitchment? But I have to say, it's so handsome. Ren noticed Natasha Romanoff's peeping and blinked at her. Wait until Old Bill digests it for a while. Ren just looked at the other party again and said, Old Bill, what are you thinking about? Is this a great plan? Old Bill's heartbeat trembled violently again, and he tried to take a deep breath before calming down. Take a sip of the tea that has gone cold. Old Bill tried to calmly said, Boy of the Sullivan family, the plan is very good, but I need to see the direction of success. You can't just talk about it, right? Definitely. Ren smiled and said, the direction of success lies in my hands. Take out a USB flash drive and insert it into the computer interface. Under the operation of Natasha Romanoff, a test video about the Super Lizard Warrior was played. The video is not long, it just edits some of the most exciting scenes. Just 5 minutes later. Ren said confidently, Old Bill, this is an additional product obtained by Presbyterian Hospital during its more than 10 years of gene self-healing research. Genetic Potion Series Lizard Serum, I have 500 elite subordinates who have completed genetic testing. Believe me, under the hands of these good guys, the so-called underworld tyrant Kingpin is a piece of trash. I have already convinced Director George Stacy of the 13th Precinct. If I can get the cooperation of the New York City government, I can make the entire Hell's Kitchen behave in just one night. This is serious business, not a joke. Old Bill believed that Ren would not deceive him with what was in the video. And the shocking test scene of the super lizard warrior made Old Bill feel a turmoil in his heart. Old Bill narrowed his eyes slightly and said tentatively, "Ren, about the lizard serum." "Ren, Old Bill, don't be too greedy. I can give you 10% of the entire West Central City cake. The lizard serum is the fruit of my own cultivation. No one can interfere. Following up, I will contact the American military. If anyone dares to reach out, I will chop off his claws." People's words are as loud as thunder. Old Bill smiled awkwardly when he heard this, and quickly changed the subject, saying, "What a fiery boy. This is definitely your fruit, and no one will interfere. Let's get back to the big plan, Ren, and the city will fully support you. Now, tell me, Ren, what do you want?" A qualified politician never cares about face, only cares about interests. The 10% profit from the West Midtown development plan is at least tens of billions of dollars. If he doesn't pay something, Old Bill will not feel at ease. The Sullivan family is not a big philanthropist, they always have profit needs. Ren also laughed when he heard this and said, "Old Bill, there are a lot of things I want to get." Old Bill said proudly, "The city government will satisfy you." Ren nodded and said, "I need to become a member of Congress, have the qualifications to be a senator in the White House, and have the quota to undertake comprehensive projects related to underground and street building maintenance in the entire Governor's Island and New York State, and the entire funeral industry in New York. The results are not ideal. I am trying to save my life. I beg for collection and evaluation." Chapter 35. Faced with the interest exchange proposed by Old Bill, Ren was very rude and opened his mouth. The interests involved in negotiating the development of the entire West Midtown area of Manhattan are too huge. The most direct economic benefits during the development process are already over $100 billion, not to mention the indirect benefits that can be achieved after the development of West Central City is completed, which will be more than 10 times greater. And can $1 trillion buy a borough of Manhattan? Absolutely not. But Ren was able to help people capture the entire Clint district, also known as Hell's Kitchen. This is the reason why people dare to speak loudly. After hearing Ren's request, even Old Bill was stunned. The other party really dares to ask for it. Such a huge exchange of interests is no longer something that Old Bill can decide alone. Regarding the underground drainage system and street maintenance, as well as the funeral industry, these are things that the city government of Nio can decide, and it is also something that Old Bill can decide. But being a member of Congress, qualifying for the Senate in the White House, and Governor's Island are not things that Old Bill can handle. Fortunately, Old Bill had no intention of eating alone from the beginning. There is no real hatred between politicians. After getting Ren's needs, Bill Sr. didn't show any hesitation at all and directly called Andrew, the contracting governor. 2 days later, Old Bill and Andrew, who were originally rivals in the political arena, appeared in front of Ren like old friends after discussions with their respective networks and constant negotiations. Old Bill and Andrew are the spokespersons of the two major political parties in this area. It can be said that on the 3/3 of an acre of land. Once these two people make a decision together after deliberation, it will definitely be more effective than the federal president. In a secret club opposite the city hall, Old Bill greeted Ren as usual, like a familiar elder, and then introduced Andrew to Ren in a very cordial manner. The negotiations between the two parties did not last too long, and there were not many quarrels. Nothing else. Whether it is for the Nihoya city government or the Nihoya state capital, the conditions proposed by Ren can be regarded as extremely favorable. Governor's Island only covers an area of 70 hectares. Even if it is located 1 kilometer above the sea at the southern tip of Manhattan, it is not worth much money. Don't make too much money by exchanging a Governor's Island for the same area of land in West Central City in the future. As for the maintenance work of Nio's underground facilities, street facilities, and other buildings, it is not given to anyone. If it is left in the hands of Ren, the interests of the Nio city government will not be reduced in any way. As for the funeral industry within the state, Bill Sr. and Andrew didn't even care. Old Bill and Andrew also knew very well that Ren's goal of exchanging interests was to qualify as a member of Congress and a member of the White House. These are 2 tickets to America's true high society. One leads to the capital political arena, and the other leads to the center of power. With these 2 tickets, Ren can easily open up a network of connections in American politics, capital and other power centers. To this end, Ren paid fully half of the profits from the Central West City Development Plan. Of this half of the benefits, except for Old Bill and Andrew who took away 2 floors, the rest will be eaten up by the relationship network behind them. After the exchange of interests was reached, Kingpin was naturally given up. Even Andrew, one of Kingpin's biggest supporters, completely threw him away at this moment. Bill Sr. and Andrew left extremely satisfied. Ren, on the other hand, was also very satisfied. Unlike old Bill and Andrew's imagination, what Ren really wanted was not something like a member of Congress or the qualifications to serve in the White House. These two things were just mentioned casually by Ren because he didn't want to take advantage of the two of them too much. From the beginning, what Ren wanted was the maintenance of Governor's Island, the underground and street maintenance work in Nyoyo, and the complete monopoly of the entire funeral industry in Nyoyo State. Governor's Island is the location of the Dragon Ball Dojo chosen by Ren. The maintenance work of Nyoyo's underground and streets is to facilitate Ren to sort out the Earth's veins and channel the power of the stars, so as to lay out a large array covering the entire Nyoyo and supply spiritual energy to Governor's Island. The final monopoly in the funeral industry was to sacrifice the existence of supernatural treasures such as the Bone God and Demon, the blood-transforming demon sword, and the 5 yin ghosts. If it cannot be converted into cultivation and resources, no matter how much US dollars it is nothing more than waste paper to Ren. After all negotiations are over. However, Ren didn't immediately start cleaning up Hell's Kitchen. On the one hand, Ren's 500 elites still need time to genetically adjust, and Professor Connors also needs to simplify the injection methods of lizard serum and supplementary medicines. On the other hand, old Bill, Andrew, and others also need to deal with the gang forces such as Kingpin. As for whether this kind of action will attract Jinbin's attention and lead to alerting the enemy, no one cares, not even Ren. After the agreement between the two parties was reached, Ren's attention had already turned to the design and construction of Governor's Island. In the agreement between Ren and the state government, Governor's Island will allow some level of land reclamation, but the total area will not exceed 100 hectares. In Ren's plan, Governor's Island will be expanded to 99 hectares. 9 is the ultimate number, and it is also the ultimate Dragon Ball form in which the 9 dragons defend the one-bead Feng Shui formation. In addition, Ren is also planning to build an extremely large underground base under Governor's Island, similar to the Umbrella Company's Hive headquarters. In the underground base, various secret laboratories will be established. At the same time, after the underground hive is completed, 2 undersea tunnels will be built, leading directly to the Osborn Building in downtown Manhattan and Presbyterian Hospital. The original plan to build such a cave island as Ren designed would cost at least tens of billions of dollars. But here's the surprise. Various constructions began on Governor's Island as early as 1776, and it has been America's military base for more than 200 years. William's Castle, Jay's Castle, training centers, underground fortifications during the Civil War, etc. When Ren took over, there were more than 200 buildings of various types above and below ground throughout Governor's Island. There are even more than 17 underground waterways leading to downtown Nyoyo on Governor's Island. As long as a certain degree of maintenance, repair, and reinforcement are carried out on these buildings, you can basically get a cave island designed by Ren. The rest is just beautification and equipment decoration. Big guys who like American comics, please help me support me. Please collect, comment, and data. Chapter 36. Ren doesn't know if the state government represented by Andrew will regret this deal. But Ren definitely has no regrets. He used part of the undeveloped interests of Central and Western City to directly exchange for a dojo that would cost at least tens of billions to build. In an agreement with the state capital, Governor's Island will permanently belong to Ren. Ren can use it, but cannot destroy some ancient buildings on the island such as William's Castle. Ren said that the state government was very considerate of him. Within a month, Ren arranged for his men to start transforming the entire Governor's Island according to his own design. A total of 999 large-scale spectral receivers are connected to the rune jade. At the same time, the source of living water on the island was excavated, and rivers and lakes were outlined. Together with a large number of transplanted flowers, plants, and trees, an internal formation was formed to circulate spiritual energy. Modern equipment, hive-based laboratory equipment, etc. have arrived on the island. Coupled with the development and utilization of underground waterways and even the excavation of underground tunnels. If he hadn't amassed billions of dollars of wealth from those contract vampires, Ren might not have been able to sustain the renovation of the dojo. During the time when Ren was renovating the dojo, Bill Sr., Andrew, and others aimed at cutting off the interests of gangsters such as Kingpin, and as expected, caused agitation among gangsters such as Kingpin. For more than half a month, Hell's Kitchen was in turmoil, almost every moment. However, with the strong support of the city and state governments, the NYPD, headed by George Stacy, quickly assembled a powerful armed patrol force to seal the chaos inside Hell's Kitchen. It took a full 40 days until the agreement was reached. Ren, who has moved to a new dojo, just received a call from old Bill and Andrew. And after receiving the instructions from Bill Sr. and Andrew, Ren had just freed up his hands from the renovation of the new dojo, and took Natasha Romanoff to the Presbyterian Hospital, waiting for the two action teams Frank and John Wick to assemble. It was approaching late at night. In a penthouse suite of a hotel near Hell's Kitchen, Frank and John Wick were already fully armed, with a hazy murderous aura flowing around them, and seemed a little restless. "Boss, are we waiting for anyone?" "Yes, we are waiting for the military's General Ross, the super lizard warrior, to make his debut. It can't be done without an audience. Your Majesty, before General Ross arrives, I suggest that Kingpin and other gang leaders be put under surveillance." "Good advice. Did anything happen to Kingpin?" When Ren heard John Wick's words, he raised his eyebrows slightly and felt a soul beating in the sea of consciousness. This is an ability, a whim, that comes from the practitioner. It's not a big crisis, but it's clear that some things are beyond Ren's control. After hearing Ren's inquiry, both Frank and John Wick were somewhat silent. It was really difficult for the two men to worry about information and other details. Fortunately, there is Natasha Romanoff beside Ren. Natasha Romanoff at the moment wore a white shirt and black skirt OL clothes. Her figure is so hot that people dare not look directly at her. It seems that Ren's direct and fiery gaze. Natasha Romanoff gave the other party a roll of her eyes and said, "Among the 13 underground council seats, the Continental Hotel, the Mafia, hung men, etc. have already evacuated. The Aryan Brotherhood, the Russian Bear Gang, the Hand, the Jinshin Group, the Speeder Party, etc. are fully preparing for war. Only Kingpin and his forces are a little strange." Natasha Romanoff's intelligence ability is not a boast, not to mention that the other party had intelligence support from S.H.I.E.L.D. before negotiating with SHIELD. Even Natasha Romanoff couldn't figure out the movements of Kingpin's forces, which surprised Ren. Ren raised his eyebrows and said, "With Jin Bing's acumen, it is impossible for the other party not to notice the conflicts between the city and state governments during this period. Has the other party summoned his men? Where are they now?" No matter what Kingpin is up to, with the current strength of Ren's men, they have nothing to fear. At the same time, the encirclement and suppression of Jinbin is also the top priority of this operation. Natasha Romanoff naturally understood what Ren meant, and said, "We have always kept Kingpin's whereabouts under control, and we have also summoned all his men, including Bullseye, Thriller, Scorpion, and Tombstone. It's just that the other party is not in the Fisk building, but they are all gathered at the Oakmax Group." At this point, Natasha Romanoff paused. Then, Natasha Romanoff continued, "Dear, according to the news from SHIELD, Oakmax Group has been experiencing super high-intensity energy fluctuations tonight." As soon as Natasha Romanoff finished speaking, Ren's expression suddenly became solemn, and a thought flashed through his mind. "Farkey, it's a particle accelerator." Ren stood up suddenly and said seriously, "I can't wait any longer. The damn Kingpin may have to forcefully activate particle hedging and make a desperate move to visit a parallel world. Frank, John, you start taking action immediately, and I will meet you at the Oakmax Group. Be quick, otherwise something big may happen." Just when Ren stood up to leave, the door quickly rang. Immediately afterwards, under the leadership of Old Bill, an old man in military uniform with white hair and sharp eyes like a goshawk strode into the room. The person coming was none other than the military representative, General Ross. The timing of Rose's arrival was indeed a bit of a coincidence. Ren couldn't leave directly, so he gave Frank and John Wick a look, and they left quickly. Saw this scene. Ross raised his eyebrows and said, "Ren Sullivan from the Presbyterian Group, right? I wonder when we can see the super soldier exercise you mentioned on the phone." Ross has the resolute demeanor of a soldier, and is also a bit fierce and arrogant. Because not long ago, the super soldier experiment at the Berkeley military base that Ross was responsible for had surprising results. In the military base, Bruce Banner transformed into the Hulk, showing extremely powerful power. From the first moment the Hulk appeared, Ross decided that the Hulk's power was worth pursuing. Although countless accidents occurred during the completion of the experiment, causing Dr. Banner to transform into the Hulk and escape, Ross did not believe that a laboratory controlled by a gang family could develop something stronger than the Hulk. Here comes the super soldier. If it hadn't been for the invitation from both the city and state governments, Ross wouldn't have come to watch the exercise at all. If you have this skill, you might as well think about how to catch the Hulk. Chapter 37. The arrival of Military Representative General Ross interrupted Ren's plan to take action personally. No matter what, the military still has to give some face. After seeing General Ross's arrogance, Ren did not exchange greetings with him. His eyes wandered over Ross for a moment, and then he directly turned on the screen in the room. This operation is Ren's top move across Hell's Kitchen. At the same time, it is also a live broadcast of selling goods prepared by Ren in advance. Today, Ren is still planning the Osborn Group, so even if he develops the lizard gene potion, he will not sell it openly. Even business with the military will involve signing secret agreements in the early stages. Otherwise, it would be easy for Norman Osborn to notice the research results here and become wary. When the West Central City Development Plan is put on the table and Ren draws a huge wave of cash, he will take action against the Osborn Group. After taking over the Osborn Group, the lizard gene potion will be put on the table. If it weren't for the military's extremely special status in America, Ren wouldn't even have informed Rose of his arrival. In the projection screen of at the moment, Frank and John Wick had already brought their people together and gathered them together. Following Ren's order, hundreds of people took out a tube of emerald green lizard serum and quickly injected it into their bodies. Immediately afterwards, hundreds of super lizard warriors appeared in the video. All kinds of heavy firepower that originally required the cooperation of 2 or even multiple people were released one after another. At the same time, modified personnel carriers under Ren's command continued to gather. Hundreds of super lizard warriors, led by Frank and John Wick, began to sweep away other gang forces throughout Hell's Kitchen with almost no concealment. At this time, in the penthouse suite of the hotel, Ren calmly swung a glass of red wine and looked at Old Bill and Ross, who were stunned. It's not like Old Bill hasn't seen the test video of the super lizard warrior. But the test video is completely different from this actual combat scene. In the video, hundreds of super lizard warriors, each like a humanoid tank, are destroying enemies in the intricate urban lanes. 1 versus 10, 1 versus 100, are far from enough to describe the power of these super lizard warriors. There were even some battles where the resistance was extremely tenacious, and some gang members directly took out rocket launchers. But even if those super lizard warriors were hit head-on, they would lie on the ground for 3 to 2 minutes before standing up and jumping into the battlefield again. Bloody, violent, fierce, but extremely orderly. The battle had only begun for just over an hour, and 70% of the entire Hell's Kitchen had already been leveled. Not a battle, but a pure invincibility and unilateral massacre. Until the intensity of the battle in the picture begins to subside. At this time, General Ross no longer had the arrogance he had before, and his expression became much more solemn. This kind of super lizard warrior really exceeded General Ross's expectations. Compared to the Hulk. Although this kind of super lizard warrior has a lower single target combat power, it is extremely safe and controllable. Especially when a large number of super lizard warriors gathered to fight in a group, Ross watched with his own eyes. Less than 40 super lizard warriors destroyed an entire building with more than 10 floors in only 10 minutes. If there are enough lizard warriors, can the Hulk be caught and controlled? After seeing the performance of the super lizard warrior, Ross's first thought was how to use these super lizard warriors to capture the Hulk. Obviously, after a huge setback at the military base, the Hulk has become Rose's personal obsession. It's just that obsession is obsession. After Ross calmed down, he was still very enthusiastic about the power of the super lizard warrior. General Ross, what do you think of our group's research results? Very good, worthy of a military order. Haha, General Ross, the big guy about the Berkeley military base cannot be controlled by anyone. Our research results are more mature and controllable, aren't they? Humph, I will catch that big guy sooner or later. Now let's talk about your conditions. Well, in business terms, General Ross, the super lizard warriors can be exclusively supplied to the military within half a year, but I hope that at the right time, the military can support me in becoming the chairman of Osborn Group. Are you targeting the Osborn Group? Why not? It's also biogenetic technology. Doesn't General Ross think that I am more suitable to control this group than Norman Osborn? After hearing Ren's conditions, General Ross chose to remain silent for the time being. The strength of the super lizard warrior is visible to the naked eye. Not to mention an exclusive supply for half a year, even if it is only for a month or even a day, if prepared, this kind of thing can bring extremely huge benefits to the military. Half a year is enough for the military's influence in America and around the world to increase. Compared to the Osborn Group, Ren's conditions are undoubtedly very sincere. The Osborn Group was originally able to grow with the support of the military. If there is a more suitable candidate, it may not be a bad choice to push Osborn Group to change its owner. The only people who need to be persuaded are those within the military who have interests related to the Osborn family. But this is not a big problem. There is no one in the world who knows how to persuade some people better than America's military. It's just a matter of spending a few more bullets. Prepare detailed data on the Super Lizard Warrior, as well as the price. I need to take it back to the military for discussion. No problem, that's what it should be. Ren waved, and Natasha Romanoff quickly arrived with a document that had been prepared long ago. After getting the file in hand, Rose's face softened and became gentle, and he said, "The military will not let you down. I will contact you again in about a week." After saying that, Ross was no longer prepared to stay any longer and left with old Bill. "Wait until the two of them leave." Ren's expression became solemn just now, rather heavy, and he looked in the direction of the Oakmarks group. "Natasha Romanoff, it's up to you to direct, handle, and finish the rest. Inform Frank and John that they can just encircle and suppress the kingpin on the outside without going deep into it." Chapter 38. After arranging the follow-up command of the hotel's penthouse suite, Ren did not go to the Oakmarks group immediately, but returned to the temporary dojo. In the direction of the Oakmarks group, Ren sensed an extremely powerful energy gathering. Once that thing breaks out, I'm afraid it won't be sharper than the legendary Big Ivan. A crisis of this level has the potential to threaten people's lives. People are confident that they can solve the crisis, but they still have to bring all the spiritual treasures to be safe. After half an hour, led by Frank and John Wick, the team has gathered into the Oakmarks group. The members of Kingpin's army were almost defeated. However, under the tenacious resistance of several supervillains such as Bullseye, Thriller, Scorpion, and Tombstone, the battle remained very intense. A large number of bullets, grenades, and even black technology weapons were flying everywhere on the battlefield. But at the moment, Ren, walking in this extremely tragic battlefield, was like a breeze that no one was paying attention to, walking slowly towards the source of energy. Descending dozens of meters, we arrived at the 7th underground floor of Oakfix Group. The terrifying energy emanating from the energy source even gave Ren a creepy feeling. At that source, every ray of energy that escapes is extremely sensitive and violent. Although the energy was very weak, Ren could clearly detect the presence of void and chaos power in the wisps of energy. The moment Ren sensed the power of the void and chaos, he had already stopped. Be it void or chaos. Ren had sensed this thing as early as 2.5 years ago when he traveled from Blue Star. The void represents darkness, negativity, evil and other existences. Chaos represents chaos, disorder, violence, and other existences. Even in the Luofu world, only eternal to low-level beings can barely survive in the chaos void. Among this Oakmarks group, who knows what that BD Kingpin has come up with? If it's just the energy hedging of the particle accelerator, Ren can definitely solve it. But now, I'd better leave the contract as soon as possible. Maybe I have to find a way to leave the Earth and go to the universe or even other parallel worlds to hide. But just when Ren turned around and was about to leave, a touch of energy filled with Dimension Mephisto's aura was quickly noticed by Ren. Mirror space. Hey, you were careless. At this stage on Earth, apart from the Ancient One, Ren can't think of anyone else who can block Ren's perception in terms of magic. I have no fear of the Ancient One. With the existence of the pure Yang Golden Bell, a guaranteed spiritual treasure formed from the origin of the system, Ren is confident that he can protect himself in front of the powerful level godfathers such as Ancient One and Odin. Even the Chunyang Golden Bell originally had the ability to protect the true spirit, suppress luck, and seal time and space. Even if they are face to face, Ancient One may not be able to see his future when using the time gem. But self-protection does not mean that one can confront the opponent now. If you really get caught in that time loop, it will be enough for a person to drink a pot. Therefore, Ren has always been taboo about contact with magicians and Nordic gods, and has maintained a low-key development. Even after having the blood-transforming demonic sword, people didn't have time to wait and see. Taking all precautions, Ren never thought that something would happen to him when he was getting the down payment and that BD obviously, now I am afraid that I am being targeted by the Ancient One. Buzz. Ren smiled bitterly, and did not immediately offer the pure yang golden bell. Instead, he opened his palm and a trace of blood bloomed in the mirror space. Fierce, and full of demonic energy. Sir Ren, please restrain the power of the artifact in your hand. I have no intention of becoming your enemy. Accompanied by a Gujing Wubo sound. Soon an orange portal opened in front of Ren. The Ancient One magician, dressed in yellow monk robes and with a bald head, walked out holding a small fan. As soon as it arrived, the entire mirror space began to transform rapidly, turning into a quiet tea room like a horse watching flowers. The other party held a small fan in his hand, and soon there were 2 futons and a low table between the 2 of them. After another door, there was a pot of tea and 2 teacups on the low table. Seeing this scene, Ren also complained a little in his heart. No wonder in Blue Star's movie, the producers let Ancient One kill the plot and spend so much money on the show. It's no wonder that the special effects cost can be afforded. Ren didn't feel any ill will from the Ancient One magician. But even so, Ren did not take back the blood-changing demon knife, but turned it into a red thread and hung it on his wrist. In a sense, this can be regarded as a deterrent for Ren. The blood demon knife was accidentally refined by Ren not long ago. It absorbed a lot of power from the unknown blood dimension, which was enough to initially exert the lethality of level Godfather. If Chunyang Jinzong cooperates with another sneak attack, we can't say victory. After playing against the Ancient One magician for several rounds, Ren is also confident. The blood-transforming demonic sword is no better than others. Even if a hair is cut off by it, the evil energy of the demonic sword can corrode the opponent like maggots in the tarsal bones. The other person seems to be bald. Gee, are you so foresight? Ancient One magician, I don't want to be your enemy. If you want to drink tea, you can do it next time. If it's convenient, how about opening the door for me? My wife may be giving birth, it's quite urgent. Ren didn't sit down immediately, but smiled and started talking nonsense. And listening to Ren's nonsense didn't bother the Ancient One. After flapping the small fan in his hand happily for a few times, Ancient One said with a gentle smile, Sir Ren, I'm really sorry. The particle hedging here has affected the stability of time and space, and it is temporarily unable to open the door. Just open your eyes and tell lies, right? You don't blush at all. When he first appeared, the portal was so big that it was fake. Ren's face became solemn and he said, could it be that the Ancient One magician has amnesia? The portal sparks when the Ancient One magician came have not yet been extinguished. The Ancient One magician said calmly, the chaos of time and space happened after my arrival. The blood swam in Ren's palm and said, so, do you want to have a fight? Asking for collection, asking for flowers, and asking for evaluation. Chapter 39. In the mirror space on the 7th floor underground, the atmosphere is quite tense. What the Ancient One is thinking about, no one knows. Ren was thinking about how he could make the most of his magic power and how he could cause damage to the Ancient One. The various spells and supernatural powers in the Luofu world are definitely no worse than the magic of the Ancient One. But now Ren's cultivation is too weak. Even if one is cultivating the Tianhe Zhenfa, which has the most powerful source of mana in the world of Luofu, with Ren's foundation building level of cultivation, he can activate the Blood Demon Sword and be able to continuously attack up to 5 times. One of them must be preserved to activate the Chunyang Golden Bell for sneak attacks and self-protection. He faced off against the powerful level Godfather who was comparable to the Yuan Shen Great Monk. Ren really doesn't have much confidence. However, just when Ren's heart became more and more impetuous, and the bloody light on the blood-transforming demon sword became more fierce, the Ancient One magician finally withdrew from the mirror space. Your Excellency Ren, the fight between us has no meaning. The particle energy collision in the laboratory here has alarmed the existence in the world of chaos. The entire multi-universe is wailing. Once the power of chaos comes, everything will turn into nothingness. Unless you have exceeded the multi-universe level, you will not be able to escape this disaster. Facing Ren's determination, the Ancient One magician removed the mirror space and even turned slightly to make way for Ren. But at this time, the aura of chaos void coming from the laboratory behind Ren was indeed getting stronger and stronger, rising straight up in a geometric shape. Hey, what Ancient One has learned over the hundreds of years is not magic, but talk. Ren's face looked a little ugly, but he didn't leave in the end. Not long after, the two of them passed through the heavy defenses of the laboratory passage and arrived at a huge amount of laboratory as if they were in no man's land. In this laboratory, Two hills-like machines emit light like colorful glass. The light collides and forms an extremely fine spherical base point. In that spherical base point, there is unprecedented terrifying energy, like a snake surrounding the world, forming a huge amount of ring-shaped energy channel. When this ring-shaped energy channel is completely engaged, the energy here will form an internal circulation. By then, no one can stop the expansion of the spherical base point. Normally, after the spherical base point expands, it will form a door to the parallel world. But it may be that Kingpin started the particle collider device more than 10 years in advance, which led to hundreds of millions of accidents during the experiment. The power leading to the parallel world was used fiercely, and it directly penetrated chaos. Not really chaos, not even chaos projection. But just such a slight gap caused a flaw in the crystal wall of the entire multi-universe world. It's just an energy hedging experiment that can't even reach the level of a Star Destroyer weapon, but it can actually shake the crystal wall of the entire multi-universe world. It's so outrageous. This is not scientific at all. Seeing the scene of energy flying in the laboratory, Ren took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Ancient One Magician, if I use the power of the time gem, can I go back to before the experiment started? It can't be done. The essence of chaos power far exceeds the time gem. Fake, the infinite gems in the current universe represent the existence of the origin of law, and they cannot be annihilated by even a trace of chaos power. Sir Ren, it is the will of chaos that is watching here. The Ancient One Magician's words made Ren fall silent on the spot. There's nothing wrong with it. If it weren't for the will of chaos, how could such a random experiment shake the crystal wall of the world? However, it is impossible for the will of chaos to pay attention here without reason. Unless there is something else that he and the Ancient One Magician don't know about in this experiment. Damn FK. With a dark face, Ren's eyes swept through the energy gaps in the laboratory, and soon he scanned the only two living people left in the open space of the laboratory. These two people also had identity plates hanging on their bodies. One is the laboratory director, and the other is actually a paralegal brought by Kingpin. As for Kingpin himself, it can only be said that he is everywhere. With this level of energy dissipated, even the Hulk would be crushed to pieces as long as it was rubbed. Ren and the Ancient One Magician dared to come. It is the boldness of a skilled person. The two people who are alive can only be said to be lucky. The hedging in the laboratory is still in the initial stage, and the energy flow that escapes is still wandering around in the laboratory in an orderly manner, and does not explode indiscriminately. Take a deep breath and resist the urge to kill those two lucky guys. The lunar jade ring between Ren's fingers soon shimmered, and the 5 yin ghosts jumped out of it, wrapping the two lucky ones like shadows, and moved them to Ren and the Ancient One Magician. The Ancient One Magician looked at the lunar jade ring between Ren's fingers with great curiosity. Ren didn't explain, but a touch of mana stimulated the two lucky ones to wake up. As a talisman fell, their eyes suddenly became empty. The power of the ecstasy talisman is not worth mentioning, but in some cases, it is very useful. Tell me, what happened in the laboratory? With the power supply of the Okmax Group, it is impossible to activate the particle hedging device. The entire contract is not enough. How did you activate it? It was Mr. Fisk who provided a large number of energy crystals, which are blue in color and have extremely high energy levels. Tell me, where did Kingpin get this energy crystal? It's HYDRA. After a series of questions and answers, the two lucky guys were unable to provide Ren with any more clues. And the source of this experimental accident was also found. The blue transparent energy crystal provided by HYDRA is most likely the solid space energy extracted by HYDRA from the Tesseract during World War II. No wonder this wave of energy hedging can shake the entire multi-universe world crystal wall. Space gem is one of the original forces of this universe, and it is also the aggregate of space laws. Using this kind of energy for particle hedging, I dare not say that I can directly break the world crystal wall, but it is normal to make some noise on it. Chaos and the world are in opposition but coexist. Chaos will give birth to the world, and the birth and destruction of the world will strengthen chaos. It is not impossible for a multi-universe world's crystal wall system to change, attracting the attention of chaos will. Chapter 40. After figuring out the cause of the accident, at the moment it no longer makes sense to hold Kingpin and HYDRA accountable for their ignorance and guilt. The most important thing right now is how to turn off the particle accelerator that is still going crazy. Ancient One Magician, during your travels in the timeline, haven't you seen any surprises here? The fate of this world shifted 1,500 years ago. The origin of the world continues to grow, and the infinite gems entered a deep sleep 100 years ago. What do you mean? Can you be more straightforward? Kamartaj lost the ability to observe the timeline 100 years ago. In the past 100 years, I have visited many parallel worlds, and I have also asked Wetian Emperor and Eternity for help. All the stalwart existences have entered a deep sleep and lost contact. What is a majestic existence? The strong men at the multi-universe level are all great. The Ancient One magician's explanation made Ren even more confused. The multi-universe level experts, that is, the Chunyang true immortal level existences, all disappeared. Such things have been recorded in the imprint of Luofu world. The world rises in dimension, and the immortals and gods retreat. The promotion of the world, in its essence, is the will of the world achieving a higher level of promotion of the origin of the world through various methods such as gestation, annexation, integration, and supplementation. It is similar to the evolutionary sublimation of the small thousand, middle thousand, and big thousand levels. In this sublimation process, the most obvious way of expression is measurable calamity, or even infinite calamity. During the calamity process, the life forms that occupied a large amount of the world's resources either fell into deep sleep or were eliminated. High-level life forms lose control of the world, and their fate begins to change. In this process, everything is unknown and everything is possible. It's a crisis, but it's also an opportunity. In the Marvel universe, although due to the different power systems, the level of combat power is very confusing and it is difficult to determine the world level, but from the essence of life of individuals in the universe, some ways can still be seen. Odin of level Godfather, the God group of level single universe, etc., as well as the limit of longevity, belong to the pinnacle of the mortal world. Once you reach the multi-universe level, there is no life limit and you belong to the existence of immortals. On top of the multi-universe level, true immortal, there are also super-universe level, Xian, almighty universe level, golden immortal, beyond level universe, Tai, and even OAA level, De Luo. This shows that the Marvel universe is at least 1,000 level world. And once this kind of dimensionality rise in the vast world is successful, it will definitely be able to give birth to and accommodate existences at the Hunyuan level. Hunyuan power, even if placed in chaos, is a high-level existence. Every Hunyuan power is the parent and child of chaos. Extremely complicated thoughts were running wildly in Ren's mind. Finally, under the suppression of the pure Yang Golden Bell, Ren's mind calmed down. When he looked at the energy ring with a trace of chaos breath again, he was no longer afraid. If the world you live in is really in the process of dimensionality enhancement, so the will of chaos that comes from this attention will most likely do no harm. No, to be precise, this experimental accident was most likely an opportunity brought about by the will of chaos. Ancient One Magician, I think what we need to do most now is to smooth over the current energy. What do you think? Yeah, it's true. But I don't know if this is correct. Hearing Ren's words, the Ancient One Magician frowned slightly, showing a solemn look on his face. In fact, there are only two choices before Ren and Ancient One. One is, as Ren said, to spend energy, channelize energy, and maintain the entire experiment until it bears fruit. No one can predict the outcome of this kind of experiment, it may be good or it may be bad. It's okay if it's good, but if it's bad, it will be over if it attracts some chaos boss. The other option is naturally to interrupt the experiment completely while it has just begun. But once the current experiment is interrupted, the energy in the laboratory that is pulled and bound by the energy ring will explode instantly. This kind of energy burst, with the aura of chaos, cannot be stopped even by the full strength of the Ancient One Magician. The best outcome after the explosion would be to destroy the entire contract. Compared to the compassion and worry of the Ancient One Magician, at the moment, Ren felt more and more that the accident at hand might not be a bad thing. Feelings in the heart, whims. Although this thing is very mysterious, Ren is more and more convinced that this is a great opportunity on his way to practice, and it may even help him achieve his future path. Ancient One Magician, if you think the future is unpredictable, how about I handle it here? Just do what you think of. Seeing that the Ancient One Magician is still hesitating, he opens his mouth and takes on the responsibility. The Ancient One Magician looked directly at Ren when he heard this. The two looked at each other for more than a minute. The Ancient One Magician said, "Your Excellency, I wonder how you plan to deal with the current situation." Ren said without thinking, "I have a formation, let's change it to a Lianji dust formation." The Lianji dust formation is a suppression formation left by one of the Hunyuan powers in the Luofu world for its own Taoism. It can use yin and yang to develop chaos and open up a big world from the tiny. When the formation is in operation, a world is formed in one burst. The yin and yang cycle, and the world repeatedly arises and dies. If the formation is reversed and the formation is refined with strange objects containing the power of the world, the laboratory space can be cut off and implanted into the world of the formation. When the time comes, let the world of the formation diagram continue to arise and die, reverse the yin and yang and nourish chaos. In the end, you might even be able to get a chaos rare treasure. Listening to Ren's continuous narration, and even the occasional mysterious formation, the Ancient One Magician felt a little calmer. After more than half an hour, the Ancient One Magician just sighed and said, "Your Majesty, Ren's method can be tried." After saying this, the Ancient One Magician remained silent. Now, it was Ren's turn to feel numb. After a pause, Ren said, "Ancient One Magician, I need your help to use this method." Ancient One Magician. Ren smiled awkwardly and said, "Ancient One Magician, to refine the Lianji dust formation, you need materials containing the power of the world. I heard that Ancient One Magician is familiar with the Acacia clan. I wonder if I can borrow some branches of the world." Yelai. Ancient One Magician. Ren suppressed his emotions and said, "Magician, you don't want the whole contract to be wiped out, right?" Ancient One Magician. Damn fakir. Thank you to all the unknown readers for your great flowers, please collect them, please collect them, please collect them. Chapter 41. Ren's unexpected plucking behavior made the Ancient One Magician's eyelids twitch violently. Looking at the good-tempered Ancient One Magician, he was so angry that he was shaking all over. Ren also felt a little guilty and explained, "Magician, this is really not me taking advantage of others, but a clever woman can't make a fool of herself. What bad intentions can I have? This is all for the sake of the people, the world, and all sentient beings." The more people speak, the more confident they become. The Ancient One Magician narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Ren for 2 minutes before turning and leaving. After more than an hour, Ren, who was bored in the laboratory, had just waited for the reappearance of the Ancient One Magician. Only this time, the Ancient One Magician looked somewhat embarrassed and had a burnt smell. Looking at the branch with a few leaves handed over by the Ancient One Magician. Even though Ren had seen countless treasures in the Luofu world mark, at this moment, Ren's heart could not help but beat violently. The world tree, even in the Luofu world, is definitely the top innate spiritual root. And anything that falls from the world tree, even a speck of dust, can be regarded as a treasure of heaven and earth. Not to mention, a small branch of the world tree. You know, Asgard god King Odin's most powerful artifact, Gungnir's spear, is made of branches and leaves of the world. It is called the Spear of Eternity and the Spear of Destiny. It has the power of lightning and meteors, and can be 100% hit the enemy. Ren will not comment on the memory level of the dwarfs in Asgard. But right now, the eternity, world, and life energy flowing on the branches and leaves of this small section of the world have completely exceeded Ren's expectations. This thing is used to refine the Lianji dust formation diagram, and it is a perfect fit. But after Ren took the branches and leaves of the world into his hands, his whole body became numb again. The materials are good, but I can't refine them myself. Ancient One Magician, that. The branches and leaves of the world are not enough, we also need the eternal fire, right? Magician wisdom. Hee. Seeing the Ancient One Magician sneer, Ren felt extremely embarrassed. This time the wool was gathered, it seemed a bit harsh. But things have already progressed to this point, and it can't be a bad thing because of the last tremor. Ren was a bit thick-skinned, so he bit the bullet, summoned the red dust heart refining furnace from the Taiyin jade ring, and showed a shy smile to the Ancient One Magician. Shivering and cold. After the Ancient One Magician took several deep breaths, he turned coldly, flicked his sleeves, and dropped a ray of fire into the heart refining furnace of mortals. This eternal fire, after entering the furnace, quickly absorbed the nutrients in the furnace and grew rapidly. At the same time, the eternal fire also began to emit extremely gentle power, continuously growing the red dust heart refining furnace, and its internal restrictions were rapidly taking shape. It only takes less than 5 minutes. The eternal fire and the red dust heart refining furnace have reached a state of balanced symbiosis. And the red dust heart refining furnace has also soared from the prototype of a spiritual treasure to a middle-grade acquired spiritual treasure with 24 restrictions. There is only one step left, and this mortal heart refining furnace can even be promoted to a top grade acquired spiritual treasure. Gee, this wave is really making a lot of money. If the Ancient One magician hadn't come face to face, he would probably have grinned loudly on the spot. The eternal fire in the furnace only has this effect after being stored in the furnace body for a few minutes. Although the first sacrifice has the greatest effect, as the ability of the red dust heart refining furnace to collect the 7 emotions and 6 desires increases countless times, the eternal fire will continue to grow and continue to feed the red dust heart refining furnace. This means that as long as there is enough time, the red dust heart refining furnace will eventually be promoted to the level of a top grade acquired spiritual treasure. Moreover, the promotion of the red dust heart refining furnace coupled with the emergence of the eternal fire, the Taiyan jade ring, the 12 Yuan Chen white bone beads, the painted world pagoda, and even the blood-transforming demonic sword on a person's body can all be refined and cultivated for the second time to make them reach higher levels. It's so beautiful, it's so beautiful. Just when Ren was in ecstasy, the Ancient One magician finally couldn't help but sneer and said, "Sir Ren, you are happy too early." Ren was stunned and said, "Did I make it obvious?" Ancient One magician, what do you think? Ren coughed twice and said, "What does the Ancient One magician mean?" Ancient One magician, the branches and leaves of the world and the eternal fire are the treasures of the Aesir Protoss. Lord Ren should know that there are no free benefits in the world. When the time is right, Sir Ren needs to go to Asgard to repay the Aesir Protoss for what they have given. There's nothing wrong with that. There is no free pie in the world. The Ancient One magician was able to borrow 2 treasures from God King Odin, which was already a great effort. There is no reason for Ancient One magician to repay the value contained in these 2 treasures. Even if a person is thick-faced and has a dark heart, he will not do such dishonest things and become a douchebag. Well, having said that, the Ancient One magician is probably the biggest villain in Marvel. Do you want to learn something yourself? After the Ancient One magician finished speaking, Ren smiled, looked at the other person meaningfully, and then turned his attention to the branches and leaves of the world. As a person with the mark of the entire Luofu world, for Ren, it is not difficult to refine a Lianji dust formation diagram. After all, materials such as branches and leaves of the world inherently contain extremely strong power of law of the world, and are naturally the top treasures that carry the life and death of the world. All one needs to do is turn the branches and leaves of the world into scrolls, and then carve the formations, talismans, and seals. With the inheritance of Tianfu Yunzwen, and the foundation of Yin and Yang, Ren is the foundation. Ren borrows energy from the Ancient One magician, who borrows energy from the dark dimension. A wave of old 6 acts. There is no need to be stingy with mana. In just 2 hours, the Lianji dust formation has been initially prepared and freshly baked. The newly released Lianji dust formation is not yet a finished product, it can only be regarded as a Lingbao embryo. After the array diagram appears, as Ren dropped a burst of mana, the Lianji dust formation quickly unfolded, covering the entire laboratory. The formation space and the laboratory space merged, and the world suddenly emerged. The terrifying energy flow that was originally pulled by the particle acceleration and hedging device soon set off boundless turmoil in the world of the array. The world was born and destroyed, and the cycle continued. The spherical chaos body in the center of the particle collision also slowly grew in size. Ancient One magician, it seems our plan worked. Ancient One magician? Where's the human? How about Sorcerer Supreme? Isn't it polite to leave without saying a word? Chapter 42. Ren wasn't surprised at all that he hadn't noticed the Ancient One leaving. After all, the life essence of Ancient One is already the leader of level Godfather, and there is a huge gap between him and Ren, a foundation-building monk who relies on magical spiritual treasures. Wait until the Ancient One magician leaves. Ren quickly used his mobile phone to ask Frank and John Wick to lead the team away and clear the surroundings of the entire Ocker Marks group. This laboratory has been integrated by the array space and turned into an array world. Due to the existence of Chaos Aura, Ren could only use the Lianji dust array to cut away this space. When the surroundings of the Max group were completely cleared, Ren quickly stretched out his hand and took back the entire space into a picture scroll. Immediately afterwards, huge amounts of spatial turbulence poured out from the original laboratory space, raging like a river bursting its banks. Wherever the turbulent flow of space passes, everything is turned into powder. Institutional passages, steel doors, floor ceilings, and even the load-bearing columns of the entire building were all swallowed up. The first time turbulence appeared in that space. Ren, on the other hand, was transported by the 5 yin ghosts and sneaked through the void. He left the building early and appeared directly in the hotel suite of the temporary headquarters. Ren's sudden appearance surprised Natasha Romanoff for a moment. Fortunately, during the 2 months of getting along, Natasha Romanoff has already adapted to Ren's magic. After a brief period of confusion, Natasha Romanoff quickly stepped forward, hugged Ren's arm, and said, "Dear, is there something wrong in the Marx Group's laboratory?" The early retreat of Frank, John Wick, and others, and the sudden appearance of Ren. Natasha Romanoff guessed part of the truth almost immediately. Ren felt Natasha Romanoff's softness and felt a little excited. He quickly took Natasha Romanoff into his arms and started to chew her. "Yes, there was an accident, but the problem is not major and has been resolved. A long kiss makes people feel calmer. I have to say that although there were surprises in this wave, the gains I gained were really great. The Lianji dust formation, even if it is just a Lingbao embryo, its effectiveness is extremely powerful. With such an array map, if you place it in the dojo, it will be the strongest defense in the world. Even if it is a nuclear bomb, the most powerful weapon of mankind, it can cause even a ripple on the Lianji dust array, it is considered a human hand. He is blind and has destroyed the formation diagram. Not to mention, in the world of the array diagram, there is also a chaos rare treasure. That thing was delivered to your door by the will of chaos himself. In the world of Luofu, once the chaos rare treasure appears, even the great masters of Hunyuan will be crazy to fight for it, and their heads will be beaten. Not to mention, there is also the red dust heart refining furnace and the eternal fire, both of which are of great use. Boss, did you receive it? I'm Frank, there may be hundreds of millions of problems here at Marx Group. Just when the atmosphere between Ren and Natasha Romanoff was in place and they were about to take a step further, the communicator in the room soon heard Frank's slightly worried voice. Ren suppressed the desire in his heart, picked up the communicator casually, and said, "Roger, I'm Ren, you don't have to worry about the Marx Group's affairs, just close the team." After ending the call with Frank, Ren was no longer in a hurry to join Natasha Romanoff in the yin and yang ceremony. Instead, he held Natasha Romanoff in his arms and came to the huge amounts of floor-to-ceiling windows. At this time, the sky has already dawned, and a brilliant golden light rises from the sky and the sea, separated by a distance of 2 kilometers. Standing on the top floor of the hotel, you can clearly see that the Marx building, which is almost outstanding in Hell's Kitchen, is collapsing in a majestic way. Unprecedented dust slowly rose like a mushroom cloud. Upon seeing this, Natasha Romanoff covered her cherry lips, and after a long while she said quietly, "My dear, is this the billion-dollar question you and Frank are talking about?" Mayor Bill and Director George will go crazy as expected. As soon as Natasha Romanoff finished speaking, the phone in the room rang. Ren pressed the speakerphone casually, and the almost crazy roar of Old Bill could be heard on the phone. "Farkey, damn Farkey, Ren Sullivan, I need an explanation, a damn explanation. Tell me, you didn't use a damn nuclear weapon to bomb that damn kingpin, did you? Shit, this is a hell of a deal, it's Manhattan. Do you know what will be reported in the newspapers? Is this a gang fight or a world war? I just want to make so many damn billions of dollars, and I don't want to be an accomplice of the terrorists who bombed the entire contract." Old Bill is already in his 40s and can spit out hundreds of words in one breath without taking a breath. It wasn't until the roar ended that the sound of panting like an ox was heard. Old Bill on the phone was obviously about to explode. At this time, Ren really calmly said, "Old Bill, why are you so anxious? The city government will issue a new building blasting permit, which should be able to silence the media." Ren's words quickly calmed down Old Bill. "I have to say, this is indeed a good remedy. Although there may be a lot of complaints from the media and even a lot of protests, the most you can do is find a demolition company to take the blame. The demolition company was not well prepared and took precautions, so we should order it to go bankrupt and pay compensation. As for how much the demolition company is worth when it goes bankrupt, that's not your problem." After getting a perfect solution, Old Bill gradually calmed down his anger. But Old Bill was still unhappy and said, "Ren, even if there is a solution, your behavior is still too outrageous, and many people will be dissatisfied with it. You know, above Andrew and me, as well as the Senate and the White House, you can't do whatever you want." Just when Old Bill was about to give a long speech to persuade Ren chuckled lightly and said, "Old Bill, if I told you that the city government can now send out news to develop West Central City, I wonder if someone will change their attitude." Old Bill's breathing suddenly became rapid and he said, "Have you eliminated Kingpin and other gangs?" Ren smiled and said, "Yes, Hell's Kitchen is cleaner than ever." Old Bill suddenly laughed out loud, changed his tone, and said, "Go and ride the horse, Andrew, and I will help you get everything done, and we will all have a bright future, ha 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 ha." Chapter 43. After taking down all the gangs in Hell's Kitchen, Ren didn't show up too much in the outside world. Instead, he returned to Governor's Island and continued to clean up the dojo. After obtaining the Lianji Moat formation diagram, Ren's original design for the island protection formation was a bit crude. Originally, what Ren arranged in the dojo was a large formation of guiding stars and chi. This formation simply gathers star power through a spectrum receiver and converts it into spiritual energy with the help of rune jade. Enough, but not rich. If you really want to successfully build the dojo, you have to wait until the dragon veins on the land gather and the dragon beads are formed. But now that we have the Lianji dust formation, if we want to operate the formation, we need an astronomical amount of spiritual energy. Just relying on the stars to guide the formation is not enough. Fortunately, we learned from the Ancient One magician that the multi-universe level, true immortal, powerhouse disappeared. No more pressure from top bosses. Naturally, Ren should let go of his hands and feet and arrange the formations in his dojo to be as exaggerated as possible. Just talking about inhaling and breathing spiritual energy and assisting in practice. Among the Luofu world marks, there is a formation called the Jotien Galaxy Formation, which is known as the fetal membrane of heaven and earth, and even has the ability to channel the energy of chaos into innate spiritual energy. Naturally, people cannot arrange the complete version of the Jotien Galaxy Formation. But if it is a simple copycat version of the Jotien Galaxy Formation, it is not impossible to consider it. From NASA officials, they once again purchased a large amount of space mineral deposits, smelted a certain amount of star iron from them, and built 365 fake star flags, which were used as the main flag and placed on the island. Then the spectrum receiver and the rune jade were combined to create 84,000 flags and planted them into the seabed. A wave of consumption of several $100 million was enough to bring about earth-shaking changes in Ren's dojo. And while Ren was constantly refining flags in William's castle. At the moment, in the outside world, the entire Niu, and even the entire underground world of America, was shaken up by a storm. Frank and John Wick led the team and overwhelmed the whole contract like thunder. Immediately afterwards, the two men swept north and south along the east coast. The Sullivan family, in a very short period of time, became the dominant entity in the entire underground world of America. Faced with this situation, no one came forward to stop the forces that had been wiped out. Even the Firearms Association, which represents America's military capital, had no response. Until 7 days after the Battle of Hell's Kitchen. The military forces headed by Air Force Lieutenant General Ross suddenly announced that they had reached a secret cooperation with the Presbyterian Medical Laboratory for a period of 6 months. Then they negotiated with the city government and directly announced that they would jointly develop Midtown West in Manhattan with the Sullivan Group. The state government suddenly announced that it would recommend Ren Sullivan to become a state congressman, and at the same time donate the entire Governor's Island to Ren Sullivan personally in exchange for the development rights to part of Midtown West in Manhattan. Big news came out one after another, shocking everyone. Washington, S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Trident Building. In a secret conference room, current SHIELD Director Nick Fury, World Security Council Minister Stressed Pierce, Council Member and Frontline Commander Maria Hill and others gathered together. Phil Coulson is like a tool man, constantly adjusting the slides on the side of the hall. Hawkeye Clint Barton was like a little transparent, squatting in the corner without saying a word. Only after a large amount of information about Ren, Presbyterian Hospital, Sullivan Group, etc. had been reviewed on the slide did Phil Coulson retire. When the lights came on, Nick Fury stood in front of the table with a solemn face, wearing a black leather jacket, leaning forward slightly. "Guys, that's what we're talking about this time, Ren Sullivan. 7 days, just 7 days, Ren Sullivan has completely captured Niu, and even all the dark side worlds on the East Coast." Frank Custer, retired captain of the American Marine Corps, was awarded. John Wick, a Russian bear-born Continental Hotel killer, known as the Night Stalker. Just as Nick Fury kept stating the great harm that the Sullivan family could bring, there was a sudden knock on the door. Nick Fury's expression froze, and there was a hint of anger on his face. But when Natasha Romanoff entered the conference room, the first thing she felt was the low pressure coming from Nick Fury. Then she smiled politely and hurriedly took her seat. Agent Romanoff, you are late. Do you know how important today's meeting is? Yes, Director Nick Fury, just 10 minutes ago, I was discussing a cooperation plan with the military in the Hexagon, and then it took me another 10 minutes to travel 22 miles to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters for a meeting. I'm really sorry. Nick Fury. Natasha Romanoff's words were calm and even a little playful, but the irony in them was clear to everyone. Especially Nick Fury, who was so blocked that he couldn't say a word and was always embarrassed. Fortunately, Barton reacted immediately after he laughed, and gave a warning, saying, Natasha Romanoff, Director Nick Fury is only worried about your safety, not blaming you. Natasha Romanoff nodded towards Barton upon hearing this, then looked at Nick Fury and said, then thank you. Nick Fury. It's just a show of force, normal operation, don't catch this little mistake like this, just keep dissing. Mad, this year's agent is so difficult to lead. Maria Hill hid the smile on her face and smoothed things over. Natasha Romanoff, Director Nick Fury's request is a bit excessive, don't worry about it. Why don't you tell me, what have you gained from being in the Sullivan Group? Everyone present was curious as to what the secret weapon of the Sullivan family was, which was able to sweep across the entire East Coast in just 7 days. Also, what secret cooperation has the military and the Presbyterian laboratory reached? The topic was easily changed, and everyone's expressions became solemn. Nick Fury also secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and the hidden black-purple layer on his already dark face gradually faded away. At this time, Natasha Romanoff also became serious and no longer weird. It is a genetic technology, the Genetic Potion Lizard Serum series, that can transform anyone into a super lizard warrior within a regular 4 hours. The original leader of this technology was Professor Connors of the Osborn Group. But 2 months ago, Ren Sullivan replaced Professor Connors through the chairman of Osborn Group with a bridge of $100 million. After Ren Sullivan took over the project, key developments quickly emerged. However, Ren Sullivan did not show it to the Osborn Group, but secretly transferred this technological achievement to the Presbyterian laboratory, thanks to Emperor Sui Ming Yang Guang for the reward. Is Emperor Sui Ming serious? Okay, the boss said that Emperor Ming is Emperor Ming, spread the flowers. Chapter 44. The information Natasha Romanoff said in the S.H.I.E.L.D. conference room was naturally approved by Ren. Regarding the lizard serum and supplementary medicine, experimental results have been achieved and an agreement has been reached with the military. Even if it is exposed, there is no fear of anyone coveting it. After all, among the first vested interests to enjoy the fruits of the experiment was America's military. This is a supergiant. Anyone who wants to seize the benefits will first face the warm care of America's military. So it's a good deal for Natasha Romanoff to exchange this kind of secret that is not a secret in exchange for the trust and status of SHIELD. It's just a double agent. For Natasha Romanoff, it's nothing more. In the S.H.I.E.L.D. conference room. While Natasha Romanoff was stating the information, she quickly took out a few ornaments from her hair, manipulated them twice at will, and assembled a mini USB drive. In the USB flash drive, there is a test video about the Super Lizardman Warrior, as well as some action videos of the Super Lizardman Warrior. The video, which looked like a science fiction movie, made everyone gasp. Especially after seeing the picture of the Super Lizard Warrior being hit head-on by a rocket and then recovering quickly, the breathing rhythms of Nick Fury, Alexander, and others became distorted. Agent Romanoff, why didn't you report such important information earlier? If we had reported it earlier, we could have organized the military's intervention. Nick Fury is really interested in this genetic technology. It is stable, controllable, powerful, and can control the source to a certain extent. Whether it is for personal use or for upper-level transactions, it can bring huge benefits to SHIELD. But before he finished speaking, Nick Fury also noticed that he was a little anxious. Taking a deep breath, Nick Fury quickly regained his composure. Sorry. Nick Fury nodded apologetically to Natasha Romanoff and continued, I'm just worried that this kind of genetic technology will spread. After all, the Sullivan family is a gang organization. Natasha Romanoff, did you get the core technology for this lizard serum? This extraordinary power is powerful and dangerous. We must ensure that this kind of thing will not endanger the security of the world. In terms of shamelessness, it has to be Nick Fury. No one here believed the righteousness that the other party said, but they would not expose it either. Only Natasha Romanoff sneered in her heart but showed no expression on her face, saying, Director Nick Fury, do you think Ren Sullivan will let a newcomer like me, who has been on the job for 2 months, get access to core technologies? Please, you told me 2 months ago that the Sullivan family would soon be taken care of by the Center family and the Russian Bear Gang. Then the Center family is gone, the Bear Gang is gone, and even the Kingpin is gone. When I joined, I was just a small accountant at Presbyterian Hospital. Now I can become Ren Sullivan's personal financial assistant, which is extraordinary. The Sullivan Group was started by a gang, and they don't provide evidence. Once it becomes obvious that I am special in the slightest, I will soon be eliminated. Nick Fury. Just now, was he dissed again? Damn FK. Who would have thought that a gang leader who did not engage in black money would actually have such high attainments in genetic research and create such a super lizard warrior? Ahem. Nick Fury coughed twice and said, Agent Romanoff has really worked hard. Wait until the operation is over. No, I'll give you a promotion now. Congratulations, Natasha Romanoff, you are now a level 7 agent of SHIELD. Today's Nick Fury has just taken over the position of director from Alexander, and he is not the old fox who can contain all emotions in the future. P.S. In Captain Marvel, Nick Fury was still a low-level detective in the 1980s. Member, it makes sense that he just took over the position of director at the beginning of the 21st century. After a wave of obvious, even slightly low-level attempts to win people's hearts, the conference room became quiet again. Nick Fury was dissed variously by Natasha Romanoff, coupled with S.H.I.E.L.D's overall misjudgment 2 months ago. When it comes to Natasha Romanoff, it's hard for anyone to say anything wrong with the other. Especially Alexander, who had been silent all this time, glanced at Nick Fury inadvertently. I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Alexander quickly chuckled, attracting everyone's attention, and then said, Natasha Romanoff, let's not talk about what happened before. Nick has just taken over as director and needs time to grow. Now, you are welcome to join the S.H.I.E.L.D family. Let us work together to make the world safer. In just a few words, Alexander won everyone's favor. Even Natasha Romanoff had to admit that the words of the former S.H.I.E.L.D. director were very relatable. At the very least, he is much better than Nick Fury. Harvest a wave of favor from everyone. Alexander observed everyone's emotions and continued, everyone, the rise of the Sullivan Group has become unstoppable. The birth of a new underworld overlord is an issue that only the NYPD needs to pay attention to. What we need to focus on now is genetic technology and super lizard warriors. The Sullivan Group has reached cooperation with the military, and we are already far behind. Natasha Romanoff, you need to continue to lurk in the Sullivan Group, and this may even become a long-term mission. At the same time, Nick, what you have to do now is to find a way to cooperate with the Sullivan Group. Even if we cannot obtain the core technology for the time being, we must master a team of super soldiers of our own. Agent Sitvale, on behalf of the Security Council and SHIELD, asked Natasha Romanoff to introduce you to the top executives of the Sullivan Group. Nick Fury made an inadvertent mistake in the meeting. Being invisible, Alexander took the opportunity to develop another wave of SHIELD. The other party even asked Sitvale to keep in contact with Natasha Romanoff. It was obvious that they wanted to achieve multifaceted contact with Natasha Romanoff and absorb her into the HYDRA organization. Maybe, the other party is also thinking of using Natasha Romanoff's line to erode the Sullivan Group. And just when the S.H.I.E.L.D meeting was about to end. At the same time, a secret meeting was held at the Continental Hotel targeting Ren and his Sullivan Group. Chapter 45. Unlike S.H.I.E.L.D's meetings, which were so open and aboveboard, the meetings at the Continental Hotel were held in underground secret rooms. The Aryan Brotherhood, the Hand, the Russian Bear Gang, the Blood Clan and other 4 parties are united. Hell, the Angel Organization, the Continental Hotel, the Triads, the Mafia, the Mexican Mafia, the Ross family, etc. are scattered around, all looking like they have nothing to do with themselves. Behind the Aryan Brotherhood is the Assassins' Mutual Aid Society. Behind the Hand is Hydra's Lady Viper. Behind the Russian Bear Gang are werewolves, voodoo monks and other dark creatures from the old Russian Bear Empire. Behind the contract with Blood Clan is the European Blood Clan. Behind the Hell Angel Organization is the Chaos Witch Group. Behind the Continental Hotel is the Hassassin Order. Behind the Triad is Su Wenwu, the Lord of the Ten Rings. Behind the Mafia is the Dark Elf Prince Nuada. Behind the Mexican mafia is a group of dark side magicians who practice black magic. On the back of the Ross family is a red dragon. It can be said that in this meeting, except for the representatives of the giants, sea people and dwarf people who have long since disappeared, almost all the 13 seats of the Dark Parliament have been gathered here. The real 13 seats of the Dark Council are all extraordinary and have ancient history. However, as shown in the secret room, more than half of the forces actually do not have much interest in America. In other words, in this round of sweeps by the Sullivan family, there was not much loss. Ren Sullivan is not a madman, and the purpose of launching these battles is just for the Hell's Kitchen area. In this process, even becoming the overlord of the underworld is just a matter of chance. Except Hell's Kitchen and body collector work. Ren didn't get too involved in the entire contract dispute, or even the traditional underground transactions and financial paths on the East Coast. The real interests that have suffered serious losses are mainly the Irish gang, the Russian bear gang, the contract vampires and the kingpin who once opposed Ren. These four forces are now basically completely destroyed. But the Irish gang originally belonged to the Aryan Brotherhood, and the kingpin also had the support of the Brotherhood. Therefore, the people coming from the four forces are also representatives of the forces that are really hiding behind it. The dignity of Brotherhood cannot be desecrated. I suggest that we collectively take action to destroy the Sullivan family. Yes, only the blood of Ren Sullivan can quell the anger of our people. The Russian bear gang will never be afraid of any enemy. The hand's losses and profits need to be compensated. Well, yes, everything you said is right. Well, Princess Isabel of our witch coven ran away from home recently and is quite busy. What a coincidence, Prince Nuada of our clan is also making a treasure. Haha, the Continental Hotel is just a platform from beginning to end. If you place an order, we will take action. If you don't place an order, we cannot break the rules. Don't look at me. Ren Sullivan is of Huxia descent anyway. Why don't we talk first? Sorry, the Ross family is not available recently. At the Huianjiang conference table, except for the severely damaged quartet forces, everyone else was laughing and talking nonsense. Anyway, there were always many reasons why they couldn't take action. Just kidding, the Sullivan family has clearly become a force now. Not to mention the support the military and the city and state governments have behind the scenes for the Sullivan family. Just the power displayed by the Sullivan family on the night they destroyed Hell's Kitchen was already amazing enough. Hundreds of super lizard warriors, and huge energy fluctuations coming from the Mark's Tower. Only a devil would provoke such an enemy if there was no conflict of interest. At the same time, this is also the true situation of the Dark Council. To put it bluntly, the Dark Council is nothing more than a loose alliance formed by many dark creatures under the pressure of increasingly powerful human power and official power. If the human race is officially preparing to wipe out all dark creatures, perhaps the Dark Council can still unite. In addition, I am afraid that even if the world is destroyed, it will be difficult to achieve this. Behind the power of the 13 seats of the Dark Council, there are also retreats in all major dimensions. The real Dark Council is like this. Not to mention, it is just a gathering of some secular forces in the Dark Council. Almost half of the people are just watching the fun, or even acting as troublemakers. It is impossible to act collectively. The greater possibility is that when someone is weak, others will choose to hunt with the aureole behind. There was a burst of noisy discussion. Sloane from Brotherhood, Wanted, Craven from Blood Clan, Underworld, Madame Gao from the Hand, and Lucian from the Russian Bear Gang, Underworld, all looked at each other. The other people are completely unreliable, they are all such a bunch of heartless people. People must rely on themselves. Boom. Lucian, who had the most violent temper, smashed the tabletop in front of him, chewed something in his mouth, and glanced at everyone. The fighting ability of werewolves is quite good, they are thick-skinned and can be violent. There wasn't much conflict, and the others didn't want to offend Lucian and the other three parties to death. The secret room gradually became quiet. At this time, Sloane, the oldest fox, was the first to speak. The Brotherhood of the Mutual Aid Association took action. After killing Ren Sullivan, the Mutual Aid Association wants the interests that originally belonged to the Irish gang and part of the West Midtown land. Craven also spoke the same way, saying, the Dark Nightcrawler team will also take action. Our clan wants the Presbyterian Hospital. Lucian spat out the bone residue in his mouth and said, you don't care what I do. We werewolves have never been afraid of fighting. My brothers are already on the way here. After the three parties expressed their stance, only Mrs. Gao was left. Madame Gao frowned slightly at this moment and said, the ninjas of the hand will also take action, but the hand does not need territory from the beginning to the end, so the interests of the hand need to be compensated. Lucian said carelessly, old woman, what compensation do you want? Mrs. Gao's expression remained unchanged and she said, lizard serum. After simple eye contact with many other forces, they quickly agreed. It is different from official human forces such as the military and SHIELD. Although most of the forces present were officially suppressed by human beings in general, they were essentially extraordinary creatures and did not think much of the so-called lizard serum. Only the hand, although they have certain extraordinary powers, are still essentially ordinary humans. On the contrary, it is Mrs. Viper, the deeper behind-the-scenes supporter of the hand. She is a member of HYDRA and has a strong nature. 100,000 words in 7 days, the background data is miserable, and the comic is difficult. Please collect it and evaluate it. Chapter 46. Time flies, and it is more than half a year. Since the destruction of Hell's Kitchen, the entire West Midtown of Manhattan has entered into a booming development. The Sullivan Group, the overlord of the gang, took the lead and negotiated with the city government, state government, and police headquarters to participate in cooperation. Under such circumstances, naturally no one dares to find trouble in the process of capital gathering at this level. And beyond everyone's expectation. After the Sullivan family was cleansed and transformed into the Sullivan Group, Ren Sullivan, the largest rights holder of the entire group, rarely appears in public, even at the West Midtown groundbreaking press conference. Natasha Romanoff, Sullivan Group attendee and personal assistant to Ren Sullivan. For S.H.I.E.L.D., Natasha Romanoff's sudden appearance and exposure was a direct loss. After all, after Natasha Romanoff's true identity is exposed, it will be difficult to return to the agent team. But that time period coincided with the end of the 6-month agreement between the military and the Presbyterian Laboratory. The genetic medicine lizard serum series was publicly sold, and S.H.I.E.L.D. also participated in the purchase. If Natasha Romanoff was recalled to SHIELD at that point in time, it would undoubtedly be a disgrace to the Sullivan Group. If the two sides really want to turn against each other, let alone buy the lizard serum. If the super lizard warriors of the Sullivan Group don't directly attack the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, it will be considered as a favor to the World Security Council. You can't, everyone else is buying it, so just don't buy it yourself, SHIELD. This thing is like an arms race. Others bought it, and others became stronger. If you don't buy S.H.I.E.L.D., that means S.H.I.E.L.D. has become weak. In the Marvel world where the plot is stitched together, there are many organizations similar to S.H.I.E.L.D. on Earth. Not to mention, under the leadership of the Global Security Council, there are also organizations such as the Supernatural Affairs Bureau and the Skyward Sword Bureau, but their development status is far less than that of SHIELD. In addition, America's CIA, John Bull's Military Intelligence Agency, Gallic Chicken's Inspectorate, etc. These global intelligence organizations, both large and small, have more or less overlapping functions with SHIELD plus the military, FBI, police headquarters of various countries, etc. When others are getting stronger crazily, if S.H.I.E.L.D. falls behind, it will be stepped into the mud in minutes. In this case, S.H.I.E.L.D. can only let Natasha Romanoff perform long-term latent missions. At least, Natasha Romanoff's mission will not change much until a genetic agent stronger than the lizard serum appears on the market. The emergence of this situation was naturally created by Ren specifically for Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff doesn't want to be on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s blacklist for betraying her. Ren also doesn't want Natasha Romanoff to abandon the S.H.I.E.L.D. line, not to mention that recently, HYDRA in S.H.I.E.L.D. has also begun to contact Natasha Romanoff. When Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to keep track of the secrets of the Sullivan Group, people are also covetous of Snake S.H.I.E.L.D.'s power, channels, resources, etc. Don't say anything else. In the past 6 months alone, Snake S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau has been constantly negotiating with the Sullivan Group. In order to win a few more places in the new round of genetic testing, it contracted the jade materials Ren needed at almost cabbage prices. You know, in order to transform Governor's Island into a qualified dojo, Ren's demand for jade is terrifying. Governor's Island, no, it should be said to be Dragon Pearl Island now. As early as half a year ago, Ren signed a transfer agreement with the Diaoyu state government. This pearl at the southern tip of Manhattan has been renamed Longju Island. In Dragon Pearl Island at the moment, William Castle, Underground Alchemy Room. Natasha Romanoff was wearing a white shirt, hip-hugging skirt, and OL commuter women's clothing, which made her look like a sexy outfit. She looked at the layout of the alchemy room with curiosity. In the center of the alchemy room is a natural black and white jade slab, which has been carefully carved into a Tai Chi shape. The outside is wrapped with elite hardware, and then the bagua formation is built with obsidian. On this huge amount of yin-yang bagua pattern, there are extremely fine lines, which are composed of sky symbols, cloud seals and prohibitions. When the last rune prohibition burning is completed. It took Ren half a year to complete the final formation of the dojo's island protection formation. Wait until Ren gets up. Natasha Romanoff was just pretending to be wiping Ren's forehead, her watery eyes seemed to have hooks, teasing Ren's mood. My dear, has the island protection formation you mentioned been completely completed? Why don't you feel the spiritual energy? After saying that, Natasha Romanoff was very cute and sniffed the air vigorously. People laughed but said nothing. Today, Natasha Romanoff, who has been following Ren for more than half a year, is no longer the tool agent who once lived in an official secret organization. Presbyterian Hospital's underground palace, temporary dojo, bone abyss, etc. Natasha Romanoff has seen too many magical beings. Especially after experiencing the benefits brought by things like spiritual energy, spiritual tea, spiritual rice, and spiritual meat. Natasha Romanoff is very enthusiastic about cultivating immortals. Even, in order to keep up with Ren's rhythm, Natasha Romanoff also taught herself Hyuxia, Taoist scriptures, novels about cultivating immortals, and many other things. Although I couldn't even learn a superficial knowledge in half a year, I still barely had a certain understanding. Unfortunately, Ren has not taught anyone the knowledge about spiritual practice so far. It's not that people are afraid of betrayal or lack of loyalty. You know, in the vast knowledge of spiritual practice, there are simply not too many restrictions and means to control people's hearts. But today's cultivation resources are not even enough for people. Even if people such as Gwen, Natasha Romanoff, Frank, John, etc. passed down the practice methods, they would not be able to achieve anything. Compared to the path to immortality, Ren feels that the path to becoming a god is more suitable for Gwen, Natasha Romanoff, and others. They are different from the Norse gods and Greek gods in the Marvel world. The road to becoming a god that Ren talks about is the path to immortality, which is more similar to existences such as the Taoist soldiers of the immortal family. Although it will eventually be controlled by Ren, the advantage is that it is extremely simple and convenient to improve. And he won't be like the Norse gods and Greek gods who can't control their own power and may even die of old age. Immortality, and rebirth with blood are the most basic elements of the immortal family's divine path. However, if you want to help these people embark on the road to becoming gods, you must first have something that can carry the names of these people as gods and help these people nourish their divinity. Among the Luofu world marks, there is a divine list, which is very suitable. But the materials for refining the conferred god list are extremely difficult to find. When Ren was in the Marx Group's laboratory, he secretly hid a few branches and leaves of the world, but they could only be used as auxiliary materials for refining the list of gods. The main materials for the list of gods must have the attributes of fate and luck. This kind of thing cannot be rushed. Chapter 47. In practice, there are thresholds for practicing various arts such as the alchemy and talisman array. It does not mean that you can make an elixir by rolling a ball, you can make a charm by just drawing, or you can make a weapon by knocking it a few times. The same principle applies to formations. Just assembling the surface is not enough. If you want to form a formation, you need to activate the formation eye, formation base, and formation. Only when the three are integrated can the magical effect be shown. The same principle applies to the temporary dojo below the Presbyterian Hospital. Bagua Mountain, Pagoda of Painted World Pagoda, serves as the eye of the array, the Abyss of Bones serves as the base of the array, and the spectral receiver gathers star power to form the array, and this is where Ren's original cultivation place came into being. As for the formation in the temporary dojo, its function was extremely rudimentary, and it only had the function of gathering spiritual energy and cultivating artifacts. The current Longju Island is very different. The layout on Longju Island is a composite formation. The Lianji Machin formation in the underground alchemy room, the Xiaozhou Tianxing formation on Longju Island, and the 9 dragons guarding one pearl feng shui formation on the American continent. Even if what Ren refines and arranges is a copycat version, it still has various functions and extraordinary power. This kind of composite formation requires treasures to suppress the formation's eyes, formation base, and formation. Without the suppressive treasure, once the three major formations are activated, they may be able to blow the entire Dragon Pearl Island into nothingness. In the underground alchemy room, seeing Natasha Romanoff's confused and anxious look, Ren slapped her hard on the buttocks. Natasha Romanoff gave Ren a charming look, her eyes moist. No one paid attention to it, and the Taiyin jade ring between his fingers just glowed, and a roll of formation diagram fell onto the Tai Chi diagram on the ground. The two formations separated and merged into the entire formation. Immediately afterwards, a pill furnace appeared, facing the wind, and fell into the center of the Tai Chi diagram. The red dust heart refining furnace, a middle-grade Hushan Ling Bao with 24 restrictions, contains the eternal fire burning brightly. These two things, together with the Lianji mote formation diagram, together are the ultimate treasure for suppressing the formation I. A touch of mana penetrated into the heart refining furnace of the world of mortals. As a wisp of the eternal fire escaped, following the infinite talisman restrictions, it began to spread throughout the Danfang, Longju Island, and even the surrounding seabed. Immediately afterwards, there are signs of the birth and death of the world rolling around in the Tai Chi diagram. 365 star flags on Longju Island turned into jade pillar corridors, integrating with the entire island. In the surrounding sea area, there are 84,000 spectral receivers that are flickering on and off, drawing the power of the stars around the sky to gather. This moment, over the entire Longju Island, there seemed to be an invisible Milky Way rolling down. Every wave in the river that day was condensed from the extremely pure spiritual energy of the stars. It's almost visible to the naked eye. There are colorful lights dotting the sky above the castle on Longju Island, and even spiritual springs spring up, forming a trickle, flowing along the river that has been dug long ago, nourishing every inch of land on the island. Oak trees grow, flowers bloom, and even every blade of grass is as clear as jade. In addition, there is endless spiritual energy flowing into the ground and the surrounding sea. There is a complete rune-restricted passage in the underground hive, which makes the originally slightly closed underground space become extremely refreshing and eliminates the dullness. Around Longju Island, fine white sandy beaches are beginning to condense. Every grain of fine sand on the beach is formed by highly condensed spiritual energy and solidification. Wisps of spiritual energy occasionally leave Longju Island and enter the seawater, making the seawater extremely clean and translucent. Corals grow in groups, attracting a large number of spiritual sea fish. The entire space is faintly separated from the big world, yet deeply integrated with it. Longju Island has its own space and is even growing. Turn decay into magic and finally become a blessed place. As Ren's cultivation continues to grow, the formation continues to improve. The entire Longju Island may even condense into a cave. This change is undoubtedly earth-shaking. That is to say, the dojo formation naturally comes with functions such as simulating transformations and concealing secrets. Otherwise, the miraculous changes on Dragon Pearl Island may not be able to attract the covetousness of the entire America. But it doesn't matter. As soon as the formation was formed, Ren already had a complete escape route. Even if the Feng Shui formation of Zhulong guarding Yizhu is not complete, the Lianji fine dust formation and the small Jotian galaxy formation alone are enough to make people fearless in this era when immortals and gods do not exist. Not to mention America, not even Thanos Star Destroyer cannon or Odin's Bifrost could destroy the formation at all. Formation is the only way to defeat the weak with the strong. The eternal fire, the red dust heart refining furnace, and the Lianji dust array, even the defective copycat versions, can rival the existence of level single universe. After forming the formation, even a multi-universe level, true fairyland, powerhouse would have to spend hundreds of years to break the formation. With this dojo, people can truly gain a firm foothold in this world. If there is only one shortcoming, it is that once the formation is deployed, Longju Island will not be able to move into a cave world for a long time. Even so, it is enough for Ren at this stage. After all, Ren now is only at the foundation building stage. All these changes are a long story short. But in reality, it's just a flash of lightning. Just in line with that sentence, flowers bloom in an instant and mediate fate. It is when people feel the blessed land taking shape and accept the rhythm of the changes in heaven and earth. At this time, Natasha Romanoff took a deep breath, like a Persian cat that had snorted catnip, and her whole body became messy. Dear, aura, a lot of strong aura. I can feel it. I'm so happy. Why am I still a little dizzy? My dear, why are my feet so light? Am I going to become an immortal? The highly concentrated spiritual energy directly caused Natasha Romanoff to enter a state of drunkenness, which had the effect of cleansing the menstruation and cutting the marrow. But this kind of drunken spirit has side effects. After Natasha Romanoff drifted away, she began to let herself go as if there was no one else. Wait, what's wrong with this BCH? Take off your clothes when you're drunk? It's been half a year. Although Ren has been concentrating on building the dojo in the past 6 months and has not deliberately conquered Natasha Romanoff shouted dear in various ways and stirred up people's emotions, but she never completely surrendered herself. Unexpectedly, now I have no intention of planting willow trees. Natasha Romanoff, are you asking for help? Do you know how expensive my clothes are? It's exciting, isn't it? If you do it like this, I won't be polite. Hiss, teeth, take the little tiger teeth away. Chapter 48. In the early morning, the forest path was covered with white dew, and the end of the road was still muddy. Natasha Romanoff fell into a deep sleep in the luxurious bedroom of the castle. Combining the nourishment of yin-yang acacia tao with the cleansing essence of the drunken state, metamorphosis was slowing down. At this time, Ren had arrived at the observation deck on the top balcony of the castle. The rising sun is rising, and the purple air is coming from the east. After a large amount of the morning sun's purple energy was swallowed into his belly, Ren slowly stretched out. Compared with the pure yin energy that Gwen can provide with the opportunity of creation, Natasha Romanoff's pure yin energy is slightly mediocre. Especially when Natasha Romanoff had her uterus removed in the Red Room, her vitality was slightly thin. But it has to be said. Although Natasha Romanoff can't provide much help to Ren in terms of cultivation, her succubus-like figure is really hard to stop. The happiness that Natasha Romanoff can provide to Ren is not comparable to that of a girl like Gwen. Just one word, run. Moreover, a double cultivation session directly washed away the depression that Ren had felt in solitary confinement for more than half a year. For example, at the moment, Ren feels refreshed and naturally has a clear mind. In this state, the body and the Taoist field are in harmony, and you can feel the various insights brought about by the formation of the Blessed Land. There are huge amounts of people's insights into their state of mind and path. The mind is blending into heaven and earth. Even the 2 earth veins in the north and south connected to Longju Island appeared in Ren's Sea of Consciousness. The entire Longju Island, the entire Niue, and the entire east coast are like a picture scroll, gathering infinite energy to form a kind of mental calamity experience. At this moment, people seem to be transformed into all things, experiencing the transformation of their own souls. It took most of the morning. Waiting until Ren's spiritual realm reaches an all-encompassing level, Ren Fang comes back to his senses from the state where God merges with heaven and earth. And this invisible improvement also makes Ren's future path broader. Even Ren had to lament that having a qualified dojo was really crucial to improving one's spiritual practice. No wonder, in the world of spiritual practice, there is a saying that the wealthy couple is the Dharma land. Resources, Taoist companions, Dharma doors, and Taoist venues are indeed indispensable in practice. A spiritual enlightenment completely laid the foundation of human nature. Pure yang energy and pure yin energy are intertwined and converged, and the divine inspiration divides yin and yang to form a complete Tai Chi. After the foundation building period reaches this point, Ren can attack higher levels at any time. By continuing to collect suitable Taoist companions in the future, the Taoist foundation will naturally be able to continue to sublimate, and the foundation will not be unstable due to premature impact on the earthly evil realm. And just when Ren was in a good mood. At some point, Natasha Romanoff's metamorphosis ended and she woke up from her deep sleep. She put on a silk pajamas and hugged her from behind like a fairy. Dear, wow, Longju Island has changed so much, it's really beautiful. Well, this will be our home from now on. Home? Do I have a home too? Fairy, is it possible that you still want to leave me? I'm sorry, I'm only widowed, not divorced. My dear, I am so touched. What are you waiting for, my knight? Did you fight so hard? Stop talking, honey, Kim. Natasha Romanoff's overconfident provocation naturally succeeded in arousing Ren's anger. But Natasha Romanoff is also really talented. It was only her second time on the battlefield, and Natasha Romanoff showed her natural succubus-like fighting prowess. She shouldered Ren's attack until she had devoured hundreds of millions of elite soldiers before she was seriously injured and passed out. After settling Natasha Romanoff, Ren casually incorporated a trace of pure yin energy flowing from blue light into the Taiyin jade ring. After thinking about it, Ren asked the Taiyin Yahuan to spit out a sub-ring. For Natasha Romanoff, Ren's initial impression was not particularly good. Whether in the Marvel comic world or the Marvel movie world, Natasha Romanoff is definitely not a figure to worry about. But in the past 6 months with Ren, Natasha Romanoff has been performing very well. Especially after hearing Home, Natasha Romanoff showed her true feelings and completely returned to her heart. Such a woman is worthy of a Taiyin jade ring. Others can deceive people, but Yin Yang Hehuan Dao will not deceive people. As one of the suppressing methods of Hehuan demon sect in Luofu world, it is easy to distinguish whether a couple is sincere or not. In a sense, Natasha Romanoff grew up in a red house. She lacked love and longed for family. Once she established a sense of belonging, her closeness was even more intense than Ren's little girlfriend Gwen. As for body defects, Ren has countless ways to repair them. Coupled with Natasha Romanoff's natural charm, it can be said that she is extremely suitable for another sect of the Hehuan demon sect, Tianmo Sheyin Dafa. Once it is completed, it will be the top-level dual cultivation cauldron. In fact, not only Natasha Romanoff, Ren's little girlfriend Gwen will also often come to Longju Island to accompany Ren in the past 6 months. She even practiced the creation Tongshen contract earlier than Natasha Romanoff. It's the same as Tianmo Sheyin Dafa. Creation and participation is also a top-level dual cultivation method, and it is one of the top methods of taking sect in Luofu world. There is also the female Superman Mary, Universal Superman Hancock, and the witch Isabel, who has a fairy wife. Although Ren hasn't had time to conquer the 2 women yet, he has already prepared the dual cultivation method that suits the 2 women. Yin and Yang foundation building, just like star chi refining, has no upper limit. The ultimate goal of star chi refining is to open up the original universe in the body, condense infinite galaxies and seas of stars, and expand them without beginning or end, in order to achieve boundless magical power. The ultimate goal of Yin and Yang foundation building is to build a supreme immortal foundation that absorbs all Yin and Yang and separates the pure and turbid nature of the original universe. This is not something Gwen and Natasha Romanoff can satisfy. As for being greedy for beauty and so on, Ren will never admit it. He is just doing it for practice, so what can he do wrong? Chapter 49. And while Ren was in the castle, obsessed with assault training Natasha Romanoff. Twist the suburbs. An abandoned, shabby port. Mrs. Gao sat on a broken stool with a confused look on her face. Dozens of ninjas around her were all hiding in broken containers with expressionless faces. Since an operation against the Sullivan Group half a year ago, the military, police, state-mounted police, Sullivan Group, major gangs, etc. are all members of the Crazy Strangler Guild. Mrs. Gao couldn't understand why those damn officials would help a gang leader. The foundation that the hand had built over decades of contracting was all gone. In the sewer with extremely complicated twists and turns. A gathering place for homeless people. Lucian was chewing on a piece of hardened bread, his body was in tatters, and he was looking at the ceiling blankly. Beside him, dozens of werewolves were huddled in the corner with low morale. Every time I think back to the scene of being chased by the super lizard warrior during these days, it can even wake up many werewolves from their dreams. It is so terrifying. More than 200 companions arrived together. It's only been half a year, but half of them have been captured and a third of them have been beaten to death. It's so miserable. Continental Hotel. A secret room on the 3rd underground floor. There were more than a dozen vampires in each of the 5 rooms. They were in miserable condition. Each one looked like a starving ghost who had been evil for 10 days and a half, with their eyes glowing green. Serena, Underworld, is dressed in leather, but her body smells vaguely rancid. As Craven came back from outside, Serena and more than a dozen vampires all stood up immediately. Craven, have you contacted Elder Victor? Well, we've made contact, but Elder Victor asked us to hold on for a few more days. It's been half a year. Damn it, don't you know how ruthless those greenskins from the Sullivan Group are? Selena, the Elder said that the Parliament is already exerting its efforts. If we persist for a few more days, there will be movement in the White House soon, and Ren Sullivan will definitely show up by then. What about the money? Did the Elder send any money? The Continental Hotel sucks blood, and it's much better than us. Well, if you bear with me any longer, our mission will already cost too much. Fake, Craven, Do you know how long it's been since I took a shower? It's been half a month and it's already rancid, shit. Twist around Manhattan's southern tip of the harbor. In a civilian-style fast food restaurant. The gunsmith and the repairman, Assassin's League, were sitting lazily on a dining table, dipping in ketchup and pecking at the French fries on the table. Mad, it's been half a year. Has Ren Sullivan never left the house? He's even more of a homebody than a homeboy. He doesn't even know that he has any use for earning so much land and money. Hey, after squatting here for half a year, I've gained a lot of weight. It's okay. Apart from being a little boring, I actually quite enjoy this peaceful life. In comparison, vampires, werewolves, and hand monsters are really miserable. Do you have news? Hee, definitely, those fools couldn't find Ren Sullivan after they came here to negotiate half a year ago, so they bumped into the Sullivan Group directly. They thought the Sullivan Group was a soft persimmon. Yes, the Sullivan Group has developed much more powerfully in the past 6 months than Kingpin did at the time. If you don't say that our place is pretty good, you don't know how cruel the Punisher and the Night Stalker are to those vampires, werewolves, and ninjas. Just when the gunsmith and the repairman were having a lively conversation, a woman with a hot body but a cold temperament pushed open the door and walked in the restaurant. After glancing around the restaurant, she walked directly towards the gunsmith and repairman. Firefox, why are you here? Is there any new mission from Sloan? Sloan asked me to inform you to stop squatting here. News came from the Dark Council. 3 days later, the White House summoned America's major military suppliers to prepare for an internal allocation of resources. Then what? Oh, Ren Sullivan is the chairman of the Sullivan Group. He has already taken a special plane to Washington, and you two are still staying here. How silly. FK, I hate rich people. Then what are you waiting for? Let's set off. I'm tired of the food here. 3 days later. Washington, in an office building outside the White House. Sloan from the Assassin Mutual Aid Society, Craven and Serena from the Blood Clan, Lucian from the Werewolf Clan, and Madame Gao from the Hand, the 4 of them were dressed in bright colors. Sir Sloan, long time no see. Yes, Mrs. Gao, I have heard about your affairs. If necessary, I can speak at any time. I will, thank you Mr. Sloan for your support. Lucian, I heard that you big dogs are having a miserable time dating and fighting for food with homeless people. Craven, you stinky bat, don't talk to me. I can smell the bad smell on both of you from 3 meters away. Could it be that you sucked some dirty blood and are sick? Boom. Not taking a shower for half a month is one of the biggest pain points in Serena's life. Lucian unintentionally poked a painful point, and Serena immediately slammed the table and gun to kill the opponent. And on Lucian's body, there were also a lot of beast hairs growing rapidly. Seeing that the two sides were about to start a direct fight. At this moment, the door suddenly opened. 2 middle-aged men in suits and ties walked into the room with impressive aura. The arrival of these 2 people relieved a lot of the tension in the room. Although vampires and werewolves have always had a feud, now is really not the time for internal strife. Both sides have been greatly weakened in the past 6 months. The next step is to assassinate Ren Sullivan, which is also a tough battle. The arrival of 2 middle-aged men in suits gave Lucian and Serena a step up the ladder, and they sat back down. Until then, Sloan just stood up and said to the 2 middle-aged people, Congressman Stern and Mr. Osborn, it turned out that it was 2 people who took action. No wonder they were able to make the White House take action. Your Excellency Sloan, Madame Gao, Your Excellency Lucian, and Your Excellency Craven. Thank you for putting aside some past grievances and conducting this joint operation. Stern and Osborn, one is HYDRA and the other is the chairman of Osborn Group. Half a year ago, after becoming aware of the existence of the super lizard serum, both HYDRA and the Osborn Group were eyeing Ren. However, because of the fraternity, vampires, werewolves, hand, etc., they are ready to assassinate Ren in revenge. Therefore, there is not much movement on HYDRA and Osborn. It's a pity that people like Sloan, Madame Gao, Lucian, and Craven are too useless and can't accomplish anything in half a year. Only then did Stern and Osborn participate in the joint plan to assassinate Ren. Even the internal resource adjustment meeting of military suppliers held by the White House was promoted by the 2 of them. The purpose is to find an opportunity to assassinate Ren. Chapter 50. Ren was unaware of the assassination plans of Stern, Osborn, Sloan, Madame Gao, Lucian, Craven, and others. But when Ren came to Beifu, he immediately noticed the murderous intention on the building in the distance. Originally, Ren was thinking of instructing Frank and John to deal with the hidden rats when he entered the White House for a meeting. However, when Ren became aware of Norman Osborn, he gave up this idea. Half a year ago, Ren became the underworld overlord of the entire world, and even the entire East Coast. The development plan for Midtown West in Manhattan has gone very smoothly. With the development of West Central City, Ren now has more than $14 billion in his hands. This money is what Ren plans to use to take over the Osborn Group. But a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Even the Osborn Group, which is not in good condition today, has a market value of more than $80 billion. Originally, Ren was taking a favor from the military and planned to find a way to take down the Osborn Group through replacement and some of West Central City's interests. But since Norman Osborn participated in this assassination against himself, people don't have to go through so much trouble. I have to say that these people are really brave enough to actually prepare to assassinate themselves in the White House. People can guess a little bit about the specific reasons. It is nothing more than the military, the city government, and the state government. They have exerted considerable pressure on these forces in the past 6 months. These people wanted to send a shock message through the assassination in the White House. In fact, relying on assassinations to intimidate officials is one of the methods commonly used by the Dark Council. Almost all of the assassinations of presidents in America's history were related to the Dark Council. As for Norman Osborn and Stern, these two people are most likely to clear channels, act as internal agents, and stab Ren in the back at critical moments. Especially when Norman Osborn walked out of the building and came to the entrance of the White House. Ren can even hear the evil laughter of the Green Goblin personality in Norman Osborn's body, and can clearly sense the Green Goblin suit hidden in the team. This is really awesome. Ren was originally prepared to follow the opponent's rhythm and play a trick. When the other party starts to act, all he has to do is use some tricks to make these people see the president as himself. The scene will definitely be exciting by then. Well, if Norman Osborn was caught red-handed, it would probably be considered a crime. If he inadvertently saves the president, it would be reasonable to win over the Osborn Group at a super low price. Deduct the process in your mind for a moment. Ren felt that there would be no accidents in this play, and then he entered the White Mansion more and more relaxedly. It is different from most of the capital that was invited together. Ren is now regarded as the most popular person in America. Not only did he rely on the lizard serum to establish a connection with the military, but he also relied on the development of New West Central City to accumulate extremely strong political connections. Even when he was only in his 20s, he was already an elected member of Congress in New York State. Even within the White House, Ren was considered to have an outstanding status. But this is really the first time for Ren to come to Beifu. Mr. Sullivan, I am Phil Carlson, a White House security officer from the Secret Service. How about I take you on a tour of the White House? Phil Carlson, Secret Service, are you sure? There was still some time before the internal military coordination meeting chaired by President America. While Ren was wandering around the White House, a man in a suit with a gentle temperament came to Ren. Phil Carlson, although not exactly the same as Ren in the movie, is very similar. Speaking of which, this guy is the leader of the Novice Village in many Marvel novels. If you calculate it this way, you are now considered to have just left the Novice Village? Ren had a strange idea in his mind and looked at Phil Carlson in front of him calmly. And being looked at by Ren like this. Phil Carlson was calm on the surface, but he was also panicking in his heart. He felt that the calm pressure brought by the other party was even stronger than director Nick Fury. Quite a while. Phil Carlson just said with a slight embarrassment, "Sorry, Mr. Sullivan, my job in the Secret Service is actually just a part-time job for me. My main job is S.H.I.E.L.D level 7 agent." Seeing that Phil Carlson told the truth, Ren just nodded. Phil Carlson felt relieved. Damn it. After Phil Carlson calmed down, he secretly observed Ren. For a moment, he didn't know how to speak. I always feel that I am like a servant or subordinate in front of the other party. And it's a matter of course. Phil Carlson didn't know that Ren, who had successfully built his foundation, had truly embarked on the path to immortality. In a sense, after embarking on the path of immortality, Ren is no longer a pure human being, but a higher-level existence in the nature of life. This essential transition and evolution of life comes from the suppression of bloodline genes. Just when Phil Carlson was doubting life, Ren said as a matter of course, "Phil Carlson, since you have spoken, let me lead the way. Let's take a tour of the White House first and then talk about other things." Faced with Ren's order, Phil Coulson instinctively resisted, but inexplicably surrendered. Okay, Mr. Sullivan, let me first introduce you to the history of the White House. The White House was built in 1792 as a white neoclassical sandstone building. Once completed, it became one of America's national symbols. For more than 200 years. Apart from the symbolic significance and special status of the White House. In Wren's opinion, the entire White House is just average. After spending more than half an hour walking around most of the buildings in the White House, Wren finally came to the hall where many military suppliers gathered. Tony Stark, Justin Hammer, Norman Osborn and many other familiar faces are among them. Wren glanced at it but didn't touch anything. Except for Norman Osborn, there is nothing in these people that people covet for the time being. Tony Stark, the only one worthy of Wren's high regard, is now nothing more than a disgusting, spiteful playboy. Internal coordination meeting with military suppliers. Haha, it is said to be an internal resource adjustment, but in fact it is just a boring exchange of interests. Until then. Wren took a glass of champagne and sipped it lightly, then looked at Phil Coulson and said, Phil Coulson, tell me, what is the purpose of Nick Fury asking you to come to me? Phil Coulson has been very disciplined since he was inexplicably overwhelmed by Wren at the beginning. Wait until Wren asks. Phil Coulson just said, Mr. Sullivan, we at S.H.I.E.L.D have received news that someone wants to do harm to you, it's 100,000 words, and I'm going to give you a one-click 3-ball to show off to the readers. Please collect it, ask for flowers, and ask for comments.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.